Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the KCM. We've got an absolutely sick lineup here today, so let's jump right into game number 1 for week number 5. Here it is up on screen now. We've got Royal Sharp JYJ, Snowbest Bisu, Jaedong Hero and Queen, and my goodness, are the fans ever giving Protoss a huge leg up this week? 70+% win rate on this squad. You can't blame them.
Yeah, rightfully so, man. Protoss have been fielding more or less the best top 4 players available every single week. Big change to previous seasons where Protoss typically flatlining during those middle weeks. But yeah, this is about as good as it gets for Protoss. Not only have they got like 3 of their top 4 players, but also Terran and Zerg are not fielding their absolute A team. No Soma at all on the Zerg squad. Royal Sharp JYJ is reasonable, but JYJ is very easily replaceable with some better players, so I'm imagining this is going to be another 2 points on the board for Protoss.
You know, I haven't been feeling as good about Royal recently as I was earlier in the season, and even just in January. Like, I was feeling really confident about Royal going deep this season of ASL. But then, in the previous couple of weeks, he seems to have been kind of faltering here and there. He's not quite got the consistency that I think he needs to have a really deep run in the ASL, even though I think he might be better at a longer series.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of hesitant to assume he would be able to go all the way in the ASL with the run that he had. It's very common in StarCraft to have these like little periods of peaks where you're playing at your A game and eventually everyone else kind of either catches up to you or you falter a little bit along the way. It's very rare to have a player that's playing at their best all year round, and I do fear that that's going to be the same case for Royal as well. Maybe he can still perform really great in the ASL, but my money certainly wouldn't be on him to win it. And the new map pool does seem to favor some of these other gamers like Snow a bit more. So yeah, my money would be more on someone like Snow being able to take it than Royal.
It does seem subtly Protoss favored, doesn't it, the map pool? I don't think it's like a huge
little bit
leg up, but it does feel like it's leaning just a little bit that way. We'll still have to go and see the ASL, the outcome of the ASL, and you know how these guys actually decide to play on the maps, because you know they're not giving away all their secrets here with ASL looming on the horizon.
Yeah, and who knows what's going to happen in the ASL, man. We do tend to see some players that we wouldn't expect to be in the top 8 actually shine through in a big way. So yeah, I'm not gonna be too adamant on which player I think we'll see in the top 8 right off the bat. I'm sure there'll be a few surprises along the way. Starting things off, seems like both players playing very middle of the road here from both Snow and Sharp. Snow looks like he might be wanting to throw down that 19 Nexus, though. Doesn't get the block on that with the SCV. That would have been nice. He did skip over making a Zealot, so if he did go for something like an Engineering Blade block, that would have been a little bit annoying.
Yeah, Sharp doesn't get it here, though, and we'll have his factory finishing up in just a second. We'll see if he's able to forego making a bunker here, since Snow is being a little bit more greedy and not making that Zealot. Going for that 19 Nexus, he might be able to get away with that, but against Snow, man, it's kind of risky.
Yeah, he's going to have a Dragoon to pressure the front, but with 3 Marines you can ward away the first Dragoon, even as an SCV here to soak up a few of those shots. I imagine Snow will try to punish a lack of a bunker if Sharp elects to not build one at all. He did go for very fast machine shop, so there's no Vulture to help out those first 3 Marines with the trade, so he's going to have to make at least a 4th Marine, and he has elected to do so. If he does try and get greedy and throw down no bunker at all, then Snow has room to punish with the 2nd Dragoon. But Snow actually cut that 2nd Dragoon so that he could throw down the very fast robotics facility. And if Sharp can figure that out and kind of call Snow's bluff here, he can get away with not making a bunker at all.
Actually, I think that Snow's keeping the 2nd Dragoon back and in the gap between the main and the natural. Yeah, he's got it kind of parked there. Just to make sure if there was like a really fast factory that was made and a Vulture slipped out on the map before the Dragoon got into position at the front there, that he wouldn't get backstabbed and lose a lot of probes, but wasn't the case. The early machine shop allows this tank push to come across the map. And, you know, Sharp could actually get something done with this. We'll see how many Dragoons are prepared. Oh, I think a Marine just got stuck there. That's a little bit unfortunate. This extra Marine would have really helped.
Yeah.
Probably just a probe here from Sharp, though. I don't think he'll fully commit. Just throwing down a couple of mines here at the front and backing off should be the call.
Yeah, this is more of like an escorting force, just to guarantee laying down some mines in the face of the Protoss, knowing that the Observer's not quite going to be out there. Does also find a probe kill before barely getting out with this Vulture's life on 5 HP. And now finally the second Vulture is available to start laying down mines towards a third base location as well. But because Snow did kind of optimize for an Observer timing here, it won't take him long to actually get out and clear those mines. So I don't think this will add up to too much here for Sharp. I think Snow's still going to be in a pretty good position. And it is going to be 3-gate Observer from Snow, very cookie cutter Protoss style, just because he hasn't really got much intel from what Sharp wants to go for. So he's kind of cutting a few corners just to make sure that he's safe against everything.
Yeah, this is a nice little push from Sharp. Just throwing away the Marines there. They're not very useful. They're just kind of taking up supply at this point. Doesn't really need them in a bunker or anything here at the front. So throwing those away for a little bit of extra pressure and even getting a probe out of it, not bad at all. Comes in for another probe. He gets another probe here at the front. Those Vultures have already spent their mines, so it's totally worth it to throw in for 1 or 2 probes at this point. Just that needs to make sure that he doesn't get broken back at home, because Snow's on the way here. He's got the siege mode. Everything's looking good here for Sharp so far.
Yeah, the main thing that we've talked about in the past about it's not worth sending the Vulture in to get 2 or 3 probe kills is if they haven't laid down their mines yet. So yeah, like you say, once they've actually laid down those mines, it's totally fine to get in there and trade them off for something. Not a big deal at all. Going to be seeing a relatively slow third base now from Snow, all things considered. I feel like Sharp's done a good job of navigating this early game. Just not having to make a bunker is a real big difference for Terran. Like, your build order is just so much more optimized and clean, and now he's going to start setting up a bit of a turret ring back at home as well to make sure he's safe to any drop shenanigans from Snow. He knows Snow is just absolute pinnacle of Reaver users in the game, so you're going to have to throw down some mines and some turrets to deal with that pretty much every single game against this guy.
Yeah, I like the minimal use of those turrets, though. Look at how few he's actually thrown down. What is this, 3 turrets to cover this entire base? Neo Sylvan is a little bit hard to hold on against Reaver. It's hard to cover everything. Look at the double expansion from Snow.
Wow.
He realizes that Sharp's not planning on moving out here just yet. He's kind of gambling that Sharp is going to stay back for a little bit, and he knows that he needs to get some additional economy online. This might open up an opportunity for Sharp. He has 2 more factories finishing up, so he could try to go for like a 4-factory timing and be pretty effective. Is he going to pick up on the fact that this really fast 4th base just went down?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to identify it for quite some time. Usually you won't see a 4th base until like 10, 11 minutes, and he's made it even before the 9-minute mark, and already we have the Reaver at the front door to kind of slow down and keep Sharp pressured and remaining inside his base for at least the foreseeable future. But because of the minimal turret defense in the main, there is a lot of wiggle room to come in here and harass with the Reaver and keep Sharp distracted and pulling his army back from even thinking about moving out. And I think by the time he even realizes that Snow has gone for that fast 4th, it's going to be a little bit too late to do much about it. He could still go for a push timing here, but in a few seconds, Snow is going to start exploding with a lot of gateways.
Ooh, he's got to keep this Reaver alive. Got to keep the threat alive here in the main base. Oh my goodness. Barely managed to dodge that shot, or that mine on the Reaver. We'll get an extra shot off there to kill 1 tank, but the Reaver's taking a little bit of damage now. Is Sharp feeling bold enough to start moving out? At least he needs to slip a Vulture out here to get some more information. Classic. 8 probes sitting here at the natural 4 Snow. That's how you know that he's playing. He's microing so hard with that Reaver, he doesn't have time to send these probes in, but at least they're made. So once they're transferred over to one of these spaces, you still will be able to get the benefit. That's actually a very long time. Oh my goodness. Really not getting the benefit out of those probes yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a mistake. He just hasn't looked at his natural expansion to even identify that. Now Sharp already starting to move out. Hasn't got a crazy amount of tanks, but still enough to push forward. It'll probably be quite some time until Snow actually notices in the natural expansion that those probes are currently idle. He's going to be too distracted, macroing out of his gateways and repositioning his army to deal with the fluidity of the vultures circling around towards the 4th base now. Seems like there's just barely enough dragoons to sandbag the advance of Sharp, and as we can see, those other gateways coming online in a big way now. There's so many units churning out from the rally point of Snow. He's got about 2 control groups worth of dragoons and not even 10 tanks, I don't think, so I doubt Sharp will want to pull the trigger on a push timing, and he does now know that there's likely that 4th base that was taken early. He just has no timing to punish it for the time being. He's going to have to be relegated to taking his own 3rd.
Yeah, and it's kind of an on-time 3rd base here, whereas Snow's 4th was so darn quick. It's really a shame he's not able to put on any punishment to Snow, because he's really going to start to explode, already sending a probe down towards bottom right to try and get that base online. Very nice having this vulture in the way, though, blocking that from occurring. Snow going to push in, see if he can get a little bit of damage going here. Ooh! Oh my gosh, there's like 6 vultures there.
Yeah.
Of course, Snow's Scarab's just ultimately better than any other Protoss out there somehow, some way.
It seems like he's got almost like a racial buff to his Reaver Scarabs. It's kind of insane what he can do with those units. It doesn't seem human saying. But yeah, right now this game state heavily favoring Snow, but like you put it out, really great that he was able to slow down the probe coming down into the southeastern quadrant of the maps. Really sandbags any efforts of trying to set up a second rally point down there. And that's going to be the main win condition here of Snow, just getting that bottom right base set up, and Sharp will have to find a way of slowing that down somehow, some way, but it's not going to be easy, man. Like, I feel like the macro potential of Snow is going to be so huge right now. To be fair, he hasn't really exploited his Reavers as much as usual. I think Sharp was anticipating much more heavy harassment from Snow in a slower expansion. He still hasn't found those idle probes to send them to mine. This is just because he's like kind of like on autopilot with his mechanics. He has no need to look at that natural expansion. He's only looking at the gateways to macro, the rally point, which is not inside the vision range of those probes. And now Snow pressuring towards the 3rd base location. Pretty entrenched is Sharp, but Snow can wrap around to the north here and try and bowl over the few tanks that are in position to deal with that.
Well, that's making me a little bit worried here, Shun, honestly, because, you know, the big thing that everybody was talking about with Snow after he lost that semi-final, or excuse me, that finals last season, was that his mechanics were just not quite up to snuff, and it seems like he was working on it a lot and really improving, but you can see he's missing out on some really key parts of that mechanic. You know, getting the probes to work is hugely important, and it's like one of those main things, one of those main criticisms. That and actually setting up the buildings properly. He's still not paying attention to it, but he's still going to win this game. And what does that even say? I mean, it's just crazy.
That's just how far ahead he is economically speaking. He's now also setting up that base in the bottom right as well. That's going to be insult to injury here in just a moment for Sharp. And the fact that Sharp's not even mining on this 3rd base is a massive deal. And he got a lot of units traded off the board. And because, he finally has noticed those idle probes, you can see them in transit now to the bottom right. But they are going to run into the paths and vultures and actually get taken out. So, unfortunately, those probes were not meant for this world. They didn't even get to contribute to society, saying, just kind of existed for a while and then petered out, man. That's the unfortunate reality.
Oh my gosh, no. Just imagine what a beast this guy would be if he could just lock in his mechanics, man. It's crazy what he's able to do at the highest level. You know, Sharp is no pushover, man. Most Zergs, or most Protoss players in the world would very much struggle against Sharp. He is incredible, incredibly good. I actually met him in Thailand. He came to BSL, and he absolutely stomped all the best players at the BSL. Everybody, without question, got absolutely smashed. Doesn't matter who they were. Most of the greatest players Protoss at BSL, so we watched plenty of him playing against Protoss TVP, and it was incredible to watch. Just crazy how good he is, and the level that Snow is above him is it's kind of mind-boggling, honestly. 80 supply advantage now, should.
It's not looking good, is it? And he hasn't got a fast +2 weapons timing as well. This is just purely 1-1. He's only just now starting the starport at 15 minutes, so those upgrades are a long way off, and this strategy can only really work if you have a lot of meat on the bone for the Protoss player to chew through, and he hasn't got that. It's going to be so difficult for him to secure a 4th base and challenge the rapid expansion efforts of Snow. Snow very similar to the Polish player Bonif's playstyle, where he focuses so much more on micro than mechanics and macro. Snow now dive bombing onto the natural 3rd base of Sharp. Beautiful storm combinations on the siege tanks outposted there, and Zealots cleaning up most of the rest, and he doesn't even need to kill this expansion. Just harassment alone is going to be great for Snow in this game. He's going to force the army to choke point up at this bridge to come in and defend right as the Dragoons start raining down phase disruption shots on that location as well, and some Templars trickling in from the east as well. Mine could have gone off and cleared out those Templars, but it's not going to occur, and now Snow is going to easily mop up some of the few units that have been delegated to try and clean this attack up.
Yeah, he's just kind of closing in on Sharp now. The sad part is Sharp definitely had an opportunity in which he could have done some sort of timing attack, but even though he played brilliantly in the early game, missing that timing attack, that opportunity, has kind of cost him this game. Snow is so far ahead now after getting that super fast 4th base online and just cranking out these units, beating that first army. There's hardly anything Sharp can do. He will catch even more probes here in the middle. He's done such a great job of catching probes and doing little harassments as usual, but at this point, it's a bit futile.
Yeah, I mean, usually that's Sharp's staple, right, is his like vulture control and harassment throughout the game, but it's not enough to do the heavy lifting required to make up the difference in this game. Despite Snow having some idle probes and not being super optimal with his mechanics overall, like, he's just been on an absolute warpath. Like, the fact that he took such an early 4th base and didn't get punished for it at all is basically going to be the main catalyst of Sharp's demise in this game. Sharp maybe had one successful push timing that could have made the difference, and he wasn't able to find it, just couldn't produce enough tanks to do so. And now, as long as Snow doesn't make any critical blunders, he should be able to close out this game. +2 weapons will be on the way now for Sharp, but it's going to be finishing up so late, and already we have full Gateway Man online with the speed shuttles and Storming Conjunction. Some stacked up tanks as well, going to make those trades just a little bit more cost efficient as well. Unfortunately for Sharp, he kind of needs everything perfectly split to even have a chance at winning these fights.
Yeah, and the split just wasn't quite there. Sharp inevitably loses this game, but this is a good kind of showcase of these two players and their different styles. Snow incredibly good with his micro, not quite there with his mechanics. Can one of these Zerg players take him out here in game number 2? Wow, this is very exciting, Shun. We finally got the game that I've been waiting for. We have Snow versus Jaedong here on Jane Doe. I've been waiting on this. I've been waiting on this for a while. Wanted to see if
you want to see the Reavers.
Snow can make good use of Reaver on this map. I think it's basically a map that's, if not built for him, it certainly seems to be turning out that way.
Yeah, and I agree with you, right? Like, it's probably one of the best maps for Reaver Ser that we've had in a very long time. The main weakness of Reaver Ser is getting a 3rd gas online, and usually the Zerg can kind of just have a win condition of, you know, surviving the initial harassment and then just, you know, playing whack-a-mole whenever the Protoss player tries to expand. But on this map, you can't really deny the 3rd gas. I mean, you can attempt to, but, you know, the Protoss player can just slug it out down the ramp and gradually push you back with those Reavers on the ground, and you can't really punish that. And we've seen some great heads-up play from a lot of PvZ on this map. We've even seen Soma versus Shuttle with one base Mutalisk build. You can pretty much do anything, but the main thing that makes this build different, sorry, this map different for the Protoss build order openings is the fact that you can skip over making that forge right away. As you can see, Snow's got a gateway on the ramp, and he's going to be delaying making that forge for a very long time. So the build order optimizations are so huge on this map. Even if you don't go Reavers, you have a lot of ways of being greedy with getting a faster Nexus online and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and we've seen Mini and Bisu utilize the map with the Reaver plays. I think it's just so perfect the way that it all lines up. I can't wait to see Snow attempt to use this against Soma in the ASL or Sulky, either one. It's going to be a lot of fun, but Jaedong here, going to be a good stand-in. Let's see what he can do with this. I believe it was an 11 hatchery here. Ling's just barely going to pop out in time. Ooh, great block there with the probe, adding on that extra damage and helping the 2-hit go through. And also denying this around. Dude, this control from Snow is really solid. Already killing off 3 Lings, and he's going to continue to run around here. Might be able to identify if there's a layer in the natural. No, not going to roll down to the natural. Going to instead try to fight here behind the mineral patches where he can take the best possible trade. Looks like that will end up going down without getting too much more, but Snow's already on his way, man. He's already on his tech path. I'm sure having that cybernetics core finishing up in the main and going directly into Stargate.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit slow, but as far as timings are concerned, I actually really like how, because of the 2 neutral marines on either one of the... Oh, he's actually going to go for a bust. This is some old school style. I used to do this back in the day, where you use drones to drill the ramp to push the Zealots off the ramp and allow the Zerglings to get inside and get surface area. This is one of the most old school ways of playing Zerg versus Protoss, because Protoss players used to open like this with just a gateway and Zealots on the ramp, and now Jaedong's going to go back to basics and see if he can disrupt this. There is a cannon on the way. He's going to clear out the medic that's temporarily blocking. Here comes the first drone drill. Doesn't get a perfect slide, though, kind of mistimes it. Now he's trying to do it from behind. Does get a pretty successful glitch out on those Zealots, but it's not perfect. Snow's doing a good job of holding on long enough for the probes to arrive and start to block up and plug the holes, but Jaedong still gradually breaking through. Cannon's about to start finishing warping in, though. Has Snow done enough to deny these Lings to get in? It looks like it's barely not going to be enough. The Lings might just get in there and still manage to either run by the cannon or kill it. I think he can just barely kill this cannon before every single Ling dies.
Oh my god, so close. Wow, it actually goes down. That's crazy. Oh, I think maybe pulling every probe to the ramp would have been the call here. Snow left a few back on. He left a few on the mineral patches, and so he ends up getting broken here. And now I think it might be too late. He can't really do anything. He can't get this cannon up, and one gateway worth of production is just not going to cut it, man. Eventually, Jaedong will just rally enough Lings across the map to finish this. Dude, what a play there from Jaedong. I really thought that Snow was going to have the drill on the ramp to stop that with the probes there, but I guess he didn't have any vision out on the map at all, and so wasn't really able to get the probes into the front and actually block up those Lings coming up the ramp. Now he's got he's got 2 Zealots on the ramp. Okay, that does go down. Now enough Lings are up here to actually kill the cannon again, so he will close this out. It was a nice attempt to try and stabilize here from Snow, but he's not able to make it happen.
I'm just really happy that we got to see one of the most old school Zerg versus Protoss builds still paying off here in 2026. Absolutely wild. Jaedong didn't perfectly execute that either. Like, that could have gone a lot cleaner for Jaedong. So I imagine we might see more of that strategy on this map here in the future to combat Protoss players wanting to kind of cut some corners with just going gateway into tech like this. I mean, the game's technically not over here, but it's going to get pretty bad for Snow. He's just not mining optimally, And Jaedong can go back to making drones whenever he sees fit as well. Looks like he's barely going to get on top of this cannon and finish it off before the probes can surround as well. And now clear out yet another Zealot for more Lings to keep making their way inside the main base. And Jaedong will not go back to making drones as long as he knows there's a chance of getting more and more Lings into the main. But Snow looks like he might barely survive this. It's not technically over, but Jaedong could run these Lings into the natural expansion to harass there. That would be what I would do if I was Jaedong. But he hasn't identified that. He wants to keep the Lings in the main to keep helping more and more get into the main base.
Wow, 3 Lings can kill a cannon. 3 Lings is enough to kill the cannon before it finishes, for sure. Looks like it will barely finish up here. Oh my god, he lives. No freaking way he lives. I mean, he's definitely behind now. He's definitely far, far behind, but the tech is slow. The tech is very slow for Jaedong, so Corsairs are going to start to come out here, and there's nothing to fight back against them. He's got to throw down a Hydralisk then, I guess, to try and deal with that. Snow is going to be so light on workers, he can hardly even afford to fight the Lings in the main. 3 Lings are just going to continuously chase his probes around and threaten to kill those off. So this is a really big problem. Even just these 3 Lings alone might kind of end things here, but let's see what the Corsair can do. Maybe he can get a bunch of kills here.
Well, there was once a day where Jaedong was so on top of his task switching that, yeah, having these 3 speed Lings would be basically GG, but, you know, Protoss players are a lot better these days at keeping their probes alive and dealing with that, and also Jaedong a little bit worse at, you know, task switching and using these Lings to full fruition. So I actually think Snow is going to stabilize and make a somewhat playable game out of it. We have a Spore colony on the way to try and safeguard some of these Overlords from being obliterated, but he might still get just barely 1 before that Spore finishes. And that's an okay compensation if he can somehow kill it. He hasn't just been able to do that, though. Like, the Overlord is barely alive with, like, 30, 40, 50 HP or something. So already Jaedong not getting punished. But there is 1 Overlord at the 6 o'clock position that Snow is going to identify and use to supply block Jaedong. So that's at least something.
You know what? With 3 Corsairs, he can actually fly in and finish off that Overlord. He actually might get two Overlords there. The Spore is, it's a great anti-air unit. Like, in general, it's just really, really strong. But it doesn't move, so you can kind of just take the one that's taking damage out of the pack and keep dealing damage with the other one. So he can just run this one away, take some damage on it, but the other 2 can finish off this other Overlord. So he gets a couple more Overlords, keeps him very supply blocked. 33 of 19, Shun, and he can only make Overlords at the natural. So this is really painful for Jaedong now.
Yeah, no, it is. And, I mean, there is also an opportunity for Snow to consider a DT drop, but because he's, you know, taken so much economic damage, he probably won't elect to do that. It would just take too long to actually build a robo, build a shuttle, and actually get the DTs out. It's probably not going to happen, but that would be a good way to follow this up, because he knows Jaedong is only going to be making Overlords at this natural expansion location that are protected by the Spore, and it's going to be a long time before Lair and Overlord speed is actually finished. So DT drop would be an ideal follow-up to what Snow is doing, but he might not feel like he's got a timing to execute it.
Ooh, he does lose one of these Corsairs. Oh, another one goes down. That's really painful. Losing 2 Corsairs there to the Spore colony. He was trying to come in and deal a little damage, but of course Jaedong was paying attention to that. Managed to target down the weakened Corsair. Overall, though, this has really slowed down Jaedong's progression, and I mean, these Lings have actually very much hurt him here. Having all these Lings actually kept him supply blocked for even longer, so this is a little bit painful. You know what? Jaedong's got a burrowed Ling here too at the natural. That's pretty funny. It's gonna slow things down by a bit. Gonna force at least some cannons to be made before he can even drop a Nexus at the natural. But 3 base Protoss is gonna be very scary, and a lot of gateways just warped in, man. How has Jaedong fared during all of this? Is he actually gonna have a reasonable economy and enough Hydras to block this? He's actually burrowed all the Lings, and he's gonna run past and try to deny the 3rd base here, I guess. No, he's gonna try and follow this, running in behind it. This is gonna get a little bit wacky here. I think that Jaedong has enough, just barely with all the lings, but man, it's going to be close.
Yeah, he did pull back the lings initially just because he felt there was a threat of him dying. Oh, he's going to kill the cannon, then reborrow the ling at the Nexus point. That's super annoying for Snow to have to deal with, man. He's got so many minerals, he just can't throw down a Nexus, and cannons actually take quite a long time to finish warping in. So this is some great slowdown from Jaedong overall. And ironically, Snow probably would have been better off going for DT drop. Looking at the board right now, he would have done a lot of damage with a DT drop build, but yeah, it is what it is. At the moment, Jaedong pretty optimized at dealing with what Snow has elected to go for, but the game's still not over. You know, like, the Protoss will have a fighting shot in this. He's got a lot of gateways that have finished up. He can make a decent amount of units, and finally getting that third base on the way. So I don't think this is over yet here for Snow, but obviously it's going to be a tougher game to win than a more traditional game state.
Yeah, I like the way that Jaedong is playing this out as well. Very smart stuff from him. Utilizing the burrow. Just putting down the one spore colony there at the front. Completely denies the DT from getting in. Like, you can't even just kill all the overlords and then run by, right? Because that's the only entrance. And the spore colony keeps the detection going. So it's a pretty fantastic strategy. I do think you're right about the DT drop being a bit of a counter, but since Snow hasn't gone for that, he's allowed Jaedong to really power up hard, and he's bringing forward a pretty incredible army here. A lot of Hydras coming up to the third base right now. It's really going to threaten Snow. However, coming through this small corridor with this many storms, I don't think it's going to be possible. He might want to set up a contain, though.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think storm baiting into contain is probably going to be the order of business, but he does have a bust. There are 2 storms apiece on these Templars, so that's why he's been able to do some massive follow-up storms. Jaedong didn't anticipate the energy quite being at the threshold for 2. It was very close. He just finished getting 150 energy on those 2 Templars, so he does mop up quite a considerable amount of those Hydralisks. Jaedong's still trying to force the issue. He has got a lot of rallied Hydras coming in here, and if there's no more splash coming out from Snow, he might be able to overrun this position. There is a Templar on the high ground. They almost have a couple of storms available now, so Jaedong might miscalculate this fight just a little bit, and even though he's killing a lot of Dragoons, eventually Snow might be able to barely stabilize this.
Yeah, it's looking like he's just barely going to hang on here. Dragoons are having a hard time getting down this ramp, which is why this hold is not going quite as well as it could. Not getting all the DPS out here on the front line, but he finally does pull everything down to the low ground. He's shoving stuff back here, getting a lot of kills with this TD as well. Oh my gosh. Putting in quite a fair number of swipes on that Hydralis army. Also, Jaedong sent a lot of his overlords in to die during that fight. So look at him dropping all the way down to just 37 open supply. So this is a little bit rough now. The push into the Nashville actually backfires massively, and Snow's going to start to swing things back onto Jaedong's side of the map here. I'd like him to wait for like maybe another rally or so that he's got you know, a couple more storms, but I think he feels that time is of the essence. Jaedong has been supply block for a while. He doesn't have much out on the field right now, and at least taking over this high ground while Jaedong is on the back foot going to be a good idea. Okay, he actually backs away. Yeah, I was going to say, I like to see him get another rally at least before taking on this army.
Well, his main thing was to punish Jaedong from transitioning into a 4th base. The DT saw there was no 4th base at that location, so as soon as the DT saw that, he pulled back and waited for some more units to maybe pop out so he can reinforce this army over and over again. But yeah, Jaedong actually didn't try and even take a 4th base in the top left or anything. He's actually going to try and transition into Hydra Muta to see if he can use the Mutalisks to snipe the High Templars and take the sting out of Snow's tail so the Hydras can do all the work on the ground. But he's trying to wrap around from behind with the Mutalisk now, not quite getting on top of that High Templar, but he is catching a train of 3 High Templars that are pretty undefended. That's a massive pickup for Jaedong now. Snow seeing if he can run it down with what units he has got available. Preemptive storm on the Mutalisk as they fly in, but there's no sunken colony here. Maybe there's just barely enough units for Snow on the ground with the Archon in conjunction acting as point defense with the Psionic Shockwave to see if he can help clean up those Mutalisks in the sky, but it's not barely enough to do so.
Oh my
Jaedong
God.
holding on. What a crazy game, Saiyan, from start to finish. Just non-stop action. Kind of a pendulum swinging to and fro between these two players. Snow about to become mined out in that back expansion. He's taking a 4th base now in the bottom right. Jaedong needs to expand as well, but he's looking like he might be able to pick off more and more of these High Templars. There's only 2 Mutalisks here, and he can't actually kill that Archon in time that's morphing. But he has been able to siphon off some of the splash damage available to Snow, but he's expanding so slowly. I think eventually Snow's going to close this game out just because it's taken too long for Jaedong to transition.
Yeah, Jaedong kind of threw away too much, I think, with the attack into the natural. Like, that was so many Hydras.
Right.
It was close. He almost kind of broke that 3rd, but without killing the Nexus there, things are just falling apart too quickly. He also lost way too many Overlords during that fight. Snow can just sit up here on this high ground. We've seen this map played out plenty of times now in ZVP. Whether it's with Reavers or not, this high ground right here that Snow's just taken is so important. Once the Protoss player gets up there on that high ground, it's so hard to win the game. It's really, really difficult to break them off of that high ground, to move them out of that position. And to get any of these 4th bases up, you kind of need to make them move. You need to at least take over that spot.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing it in the cards here for Jaedong right now. I don't think he's going to survive for much longer. It seems like he's not even got enough to hold off the enemy at the gates currently. Snow is just collapsing onto him. Even if Snow can't get the win right off the bat, he can rotate around and kill that 4th base of Jaedong. There is a counterattack from Jaedong with the Mutalisk Force at the 4th base location, killing so many probes, but it's not going to matter. There's nothing to stop Snow puncturing through the main defensive line and getting on top of those hatcheries. GG is called. A pretty crazy game. I'm sure a lot of people thought that Snow was just dead at the start with that Ling drill into the main base right off the bat, and great recovery from Snow all around, but I do feel like Jaedong's drill was a little bit suboptimal. He could have done that much more cleanly and maybe gotten the win right off the bat, and the Hydra Bust and the natural was a little bit weak as well. Kind of anticipating the Templars not having the second storms available really did cost him. But now we're going to be going over to Snow against either JYJ or Royal coming up next.
Hell, you said it shouldn't, but I am not afraid, not unabashedly say that I thought Snow was completely dead in that last game. He was so close to falling apart there, but that map, again, there's just something about it. This kind of an interesting setup there, right? Usually when we see a Nexus or like a Ling bust early, once you're kind of on top of the Protoss stuff, you got some Lings in behind in the back line there, and you're able to kill the cannon. You can keep looping around, and then you're like killing gateways at the front. You're dealing damage to the buildings at the front. Really, really difficult for the Protoss to stabilize, but because of the ramp there, all you need is like 1 zealot and a couple probes, or 2 zealots on the ramp, and suddenly it's almost like a fortress. So difficult to break up again, and as long as you're able to pull enough probes to deal with the Lings in the main, you can kind of hang on. It's very interesting, that map, but now we're here on Octagon, another great map for this next TVP.
Yeah, and both players being a little bit greedy to start things off. Nexus first here from Snow. Going to be making a second gateway early as well to kind of hedge his bets and be safe against any early timings. And a bunker expand from Royal as well to kind of kick things off. So, I mean, this is not the worst case scenario for Royal. Like, 12 Nexus is slightly better than a bunker expand, but not by a huge margin. This is going to be a much more playable game state for Royal. He's going to get the bad news now with the SCV scout that this is going to be a Nexus first, but the fact that he's got a bunker expand means he doesn't have to pull the boys or go for any early aggression here, and the fact that Snow is, you know, kind of hedging his bets with the early second gateway, that's actually a good thing. Now Royal knows that he's not going to be as behind as he could be had Snow been totally greedy and not made that second gateway.
Yeah, this is a pretty even matchup. We've seen this a million times before. The gasless fast expand versus Nexus first into double gate. It's pretty reasonable to play out of on either side. Really going to depend on how both of these guys want to follow up. But, you know, Snow, he must be eyeing up that all-kill prize at this point, right? He's taken out some pretty strong players already. If he can take on Royal, he's one step closer to that almost 4 million won prize that's been accumulating.
I think Snow versus JYJ is an almost auto win for Snow as well. He just needs to beat Royal and then beat either Hero or Queen, and then I think he's got it. I don't think JYJ is nearly a good enough Terran versus Protoss player to take on Snow. It would have to be some kind of cheese, I think, that would actually end up killing Snow, like a really fast 2 factory or like a BBS or something that punishes a 12 Nexus. I don't think JYJ is beating Snow in a straight up match. I think if those two guys play 100 games, JYJ would be hard pressed to win 5 of them. Like, I think that the skill difference is just that much between those two players. So yeah, I think the all-kill prize is very likely here from Snow. He just needs to go through 2 more players to pretty much be a sure thing.
It's a nice little payout at the end of the day for playing KCM. Plus, on top of that, your weekly prize for taking first place. But you know, one thing I've been kind of interested in for TVP on this map, how come we haven't seen more proxies here? How come we haven't seen more BBSs and you know, proxy gateways in the middle? That entire middle of the map is all buildable terrain, Shun. And you can't really like run around and scout the entire thing before going across the map to scout your opponent. So I'm curious, what's going on with that?
It might just be because it's so obvious that it's strong. You know your opponent is likely to scout it or try to scout it, so you don't do it. I think Starcraft's kind of weird like that. Usually the builds that you don't anticipate end up being the ones that pay off. So if you expect a proxy to be likely, then usually you don't see it as often. These players are basically poker mindset when they understand that they need to obfuscate their range of play, not always just play ABC poker and kind of play into their opponent's hands, because then you can just get meta games. We've seen that a lot. Do you remember that game between Best and Light, where both players were essentially reading into the proxy perfectly, and Best always had like one step ahead way of metagaming what Light was trying to set up and do. And that's the problem with StarCraft at the highest levels. If you do something that's expected, it probably won't work out.
That was a great game on Litmus. Yes, I do remember that one. Possibly also they haven't quite worked out the pathways for the probes and SCVs and where they're actually going to end up scouting. But if anybody's going to proxy on this map, I imagine it's going to be Royal, right? This guy, I really think of him as like the mini of Terran. This guy will pull out any kind of crazy build and make it work in a professional game. And sometimes, like, to a fault, he likes to go with some crazy builds. But he's going here for a 5-factory push. He's going to come across the map and really put on some pressure here. I don't know if Snow has quite enough to deal with this. Let's see the Reaver micro and what he can do, because sometimes this man can make absolute miracles.
Yeah, this is a pretty strong 5-tank push timing. There will be a Reaver and Shuttle to help slow this down. He's got this ridge line as well to try and use to combat. Marines putting quite a few DPS onto that Shuttle already. Mine's finding okay connections, not the best. The fact that Royal wasn't able to get up on top of that ledge means he kind of has to fall back and wait for a few more rally units of Vultures to show up so he can lay down some more mines and re-seize that high ground territory. Pretty good Scarab connection on the tank. Hasn't actually found a kill on those just yet. He's about to do so now, killing one of those tanks and almost finishing off another one with the Dragoon phase disruption shots. Not quite finding it. Pretty good trades for Royal, but some of those tanks getting lower and lower now. And with the Observer kind of providing information ahead of time, it's really hard for the Terran to get a good engagement. You can see Snow punishing the retreat a little bit there. Picks up another tank kill for his efforts. We're all going to rotate around to the left-hand side. Maybe think about punishing their 6 o'clock third base as an afterthought.
Man, you really have to admire the discipline, the trigger discipline of Snow when roaming around with the shuttle like that. You can see how long he was just kind of holding onto that and not dropping it in the midst of that fight, waiting for the perfect opportunity and getting so much damage without losing it. Oh, he gets hit by these tanks. He can drop in between the tanks now. He can absolutely drop in the middle of these and do a lot of damage. Oh, he baits in the mines there and does massive damage. These are unsieged right now. He gets the kill on the second to last tank, excuse me, and kind of shuts down this push. Again, miracles can happen when the Reaver is in the hands of a player like Snow. Really, there are no players like Snow, I guess. That's kind of redundant. Snow is the only player who can make this kind of miracle happen. And look at this. He's going to get rid of this tank, dealing even more damage here and just shutting down this push without hardly breaking his sweat, man. He's just so good with this control. It's crazy.
Royal a little bit sloppy with his rallies there. Could have maybe got this. He does pick up the Reaver kill. Actually, this can go horribly wrong now for Snow. He did have enough time to produce a second Reaver. Shuttle's going to be heading back to scoop those up now. It's kind of madness that Snow is able to dance with death and do like backflips along a tightrope and still somehow navigate it. It looks like he does just have barely enough to clean this up yet again. There is a turret though, putting down a lot of long bolt missile shots onto that shuttle, almost killing it but not quite. And Snow at the end of the day will finally clean up the majority of that contained force. It's not quite over yet though. That shuttle is dangerously low, so he's going to be a little bit more tentative about how he maneuvers with that shuttle Reaver combo. But it looks like he's getting more and more Dragoons set up here, but Royal is adamant to keep reinforcing his position, tries to get a mine drag onto those tanks unsuccessfully. Luckily there's no anti-air here to finish off that shuttle, so Snow can be a little bit bold again with the positioning of his units, but the mines clear out some of those Dragoons. Royal going to be feeling emboldened now to try and run it down on this 6 o'clock expansion over and over again.
Uh-oh, we just got supply blocked here. Snow can't make anything right now. He's stuck at 99 supply, and so Royal has an opportunity here to fighting down from the high ground. It's going to be hard for Snow to clear that out. Building turrets on that high ground up there, slowly inching down onto the low. You're going to get one more shot off with that Reaver. He went back to pick up a couple more, I think. Over at the natural, flanking this army now, trying to get in behind this is Snow. But I don't see him breaking it just yet. And again, had a big disruption to his supply train. Let's see if he can get in here with the Reavers now. Okay, that was a pretty decent shot. He gets rid of one of the tanks on the side. Gonna get a couple more hits here on some of these tanks. He's just gonna do it, Shun. I can't believe it. He's just gonna do it.
That's crazy, and Royal was smart to kill some of his own mines that are on top of the tanks as well, but it's not gonna be enough to clear it out. I don't know how he does it. I really do feel like pretty much every other Protoss player in existence would have faltered against that push potential of Royal in some fashion, but not Snow, it seems. Despite dancing with death, still able to escape with his life and say, not today. But yeah, this is going to be about as good as it gets for Snow. He's got a 4th base just finishing up as well. But to be fair, behind that, Royal did take out an insurance policy. He has got a 3rd base with that 5 factory push timing. Now going to be going all the way up to 8 factories worth of production. So this is still an okay game state for Royal. He did trade off a lot of units with that attack, but didn't really slow down the mining. There was a few times during that attack where Snow started to pull his probes back to evacuate and then kind of hesitated and sent them back to mine over and over again, realizing that he can be just a little bit greedy and keep that base operational during the entire wavelength of that engagement. So he actually got a lot more mining than most players would have done in that situation. Most players would have pulled back their probes in that situation, but not Snow. He's pretty optimized.
I like the sound effect of you untying your tongue. That was good. All right.
Yeah.
That was an incredible hold by Snow. I mean, like you said, there's nobody else that can make it look quite like that. Now going to come in here and look for some damage. That's super low shuttle. Oh my gosh. He could only take like 1 or 2 hits on that more before it goes down. He has to be so careful. It just makes you kind of laugh thinking about, you know, some of these other Protoss players who, you know, fly their shuttle in and just die directly to a turret. And this guy is like flying through the main base. Oh my gosh, just avoiding absolutely everything with a 1 HP shuttle. I think that was just thrown in as a scout. there at the end, because that had so little HP. He wasn't going to risk a Reaver or anything inside that, so gets rid of it. It's just kind of incredible, like how good he is at avoiding the Terran defenses.
I mean, he's so good that it basically ends up making me speechless in one way, shape, or form. Now even taking a 5th base behind everything. Absolutely crazy. He's just going to leapfrog and race ahead of Royal in pretty much every metric. There is a run by, though, from Royal. Only one single cannon here at the 6 o'clock. There is a little bit of holes in the defensive line of Snow. Now able to pick up quite a lot of probe kills, potentially, but that one cannon buying just barely enough time for some Zealots to rotate down here. So not too many probes have fallen, fortunately, for Snow. This is still some good value for Royal overall, but he's not finding the kind of compensation he needs to reconsolidate his position in this game going forward. He kind of desperately needs a fast 4th base online if he wants to sit back a macro, and looks like he's going to be taking his sweet time about it. He's gone for a tank Goliath style as well. This is a lot of Goliaths that Royal has produced, wanting to shut down any potential of Reaver micro sandbagging his advance when he finally does move out. Look at how many Goliaths he's got. Usually we'll not see this many Goliaths unless you know the other guy is going for a carrier transition or a fast arbiter play. So he really doesn't want Slow to have any tools in his arsenal to stop the push from occurring.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the shuttles of Snow, though. They just never seem to get gunned down by even the incredible range of Charon boosted Goliaths. It's kind of incredible. Every time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, he's got enough Goliaths here. He should easily gun down these shuttles. No, they're just always out of range somehow, and still managing to help get some damage going. No, he's going to be pushed back here, but he's got a massive army coming up to the 4 now. A lot of stacked units here, and Storm is ready. 2 Storms is going to annihilate this army. Oh my god. Holy cow, that was some insane value there out of just 2 Storms. It looks like he lost the shuttle before he could drop everything, but those 2 Storms alone did an immense amount of damage and should have softened up the army just enough for Snow to basically hold on now. Let's see if he can get another couple of Storms out here, or he's got 2 Reavers actually to try and follow this up. Not a lot of Vultures left over here. It's basically just tanks, and they're super low on HP, so they're dying to just 1 Reaver shot. He's made some progress, but I think Royal needs to back up, or he's going to risk getting completely overrun here in a second.
It's a tough one to call, though. I mean, Royal does kind of have to be successful with this timing push. He's not taking a fast 4th behind this. And Snow, meanwhile, he's taking the top right while this is all going on. So, in a way, Royal has to go. He has to do something with this push right now. He's in a lot of trouble. He's starting his starport at 16 minutes. This is even slower than we saw in that game with Sharp versus Snow on Sylphid. He's really far behind the curve of the game. He's basically semi-all-in. He has to find something in a few moments here, or Snow's going to be essentially unstoppable. Looks like the order of business is to rotate down back towards that 6 o'clock and try and hit it from the high to low ground transition. Snow's identified that with an observer and is rotating over here now to see if he can shut this down.
I thought this was an alright play from Royal earlier when he was trying to break this low ground. Oh, he gets 2 Templar before they can get any Storms off. That's pretty good. He can't get this 3rd or this 4th one, so they get a lot of splash damage going. And that last one, I think, is going to clutch it. That's going to kind of seal the deal here on this army making its way over to the high ground. Yeah, he's going to shove things back for a second, but the tank number is just a bit too low at this point, I feel. Snow is going to bring forward some more shuttles, and this is looking highly breakable now.
Yeah, and we are at the point of the game where, you know, Snow can just abandon this 6 o'clock base and still be okay, but there is a Vulture run by going into the northeastern quadrant right now, and I think there's only 1 finished cannon, so with some upgrades on these Vultures, he will be able to easily shut down this cannon and clear up this. This is the main linchpin in Royal's plan. It's not just about knocking out this base at 6 o'clock, it's about catching all the probes up here in the northeast pocket as well. Luckily, there's a couple of Dragoons popping out of those gateways, and reinforcements have been allocated up here to defend as well. So Royal not killing nearly as many probes as he was hoping for. He's starting to target fire those down now, but he hasn't yet killed this base at the 6 o'clock. He looks like he did kill the majority of the probes here up in this expansion, so he has done a lot of heavy lifting. Now Royal can win the game. He's pulled a lot of the army and attention from Snow up into this top right pocket to defend, but now there's not going to be anything back at home to defend this 6 o'clock.
Ooh, there's so few probes as well. Oh, and he loses both the Reavers. Oh, rare mistake from Snow. Losing 2 Reavers there. Those Reavers could have been such a pain in the butt for Royal to try and dislodge from this position, but now that they're gone, just Zealots being dropped on top of these tanks. One more storm for the high ground, another one to follow it up. Looks like he will hold this position, but he's got so few probes at center right. I'm not sure. I guess maybe we missed it. The probes going down at that base, but so many were lost, man. And he's coming out here, going to run these Dragoons kind of into the mines. He loses the Observer. Can he actually get some good mine hits here? It looks like not, but Royal will not be broken in the center either. Scrappy game right now, actually. I thought that Snow kind of had it, but the combination of killing all the probes at center right, killing the probes at top right, and this attack in the bottom center has kept Royal alive, and now he's on 4 bases.
Yeah, now he's got that 4th base himself. This is going to be a much tighter game for Snow to win from this point onwards. And there's a pretty big army up here in the top right as well. There are a few units that were able to pop out of those gateways, but maybe not enough. I think there's just barely enough here for Royal to run it down. But Snow's going for a counter-attack. He's going to ignore trying to defend that top right and run it down on the Royals' newly established 4th base instead. Looks like there's just enough forces to easily overrun this vision and get some massive storms off the SCV line as well. So many dead SCVs now for Royal, but he does have a slightly larger army. The army supply, the population supply in the top right, not really representing the game anymore because so many SCVs just went down. That means there's more relative army supply for Royal in this game. He just needs to hold on to his mineral-only base while taking 12, and if he can keep playing whack-a-mole with some of Snow's expansions, suddenly Royal can win the game again.
It's possible, man, but I think Royal is just out of money at the natural, right? It's getting really, really low. Oh, yeah. Another great storm here, hitting a lot of these vultures as well as the tanks in the back line. Everything that was sieged there. Where did all those storms come from? They came in just in the nick of time. Meanwhile, an attack over towards center right has a lot of vultures, and this is a mostly Zealot force. There's going to be some storms to follow this up here in a second, but most of the army is melted away. Can these high templars get their storms off? They need to get so much value here. It looks like he may just barely hold with the Archons popping out in this last storm here on the back line, keeping this base alive while pressuring into the mineral only.
Yeah, looks like Snow still has got it, unfortunately. There's just not barely enough for Royal to finish the game off. Looks like he will be able to kill the base at the 3 o'clock position, but unless he can get this 4th base, maybe he can. Maybe Royal can start mining at this 12 o'clock. There is a pylon that's been killed in the top right, so there's no units being produced out of it, but Snow is doing a good job of cleaning up what few units Royal has been able to muster without really losing too crazy amounts, but 6 o'clock is getting close to mined out. This is getting a very precarious game state. Just as I thought that maybe Snow was out of the woods, maybe he's not actually. He did lose a lot of army trying to kill the natural third of Royal, and now Royal is mining on this 12 o'clock base. Suddenly it's looking like it's going to be Royal's game again. This is insane.
This is a banger of a game, and Royal is putting up a great fight here, just barely keeping Snow on the back foot. I think a little bit lacking in cannons in some of these spaces has really hurt him in this game. Like not having enough cannons down at 6 o'clock to defend against the vultures initially, and then not having enough cannons in top right slowed him down a lot. It made the position a little bit more breakable for these vulture run-bys to just kind of get in there and get the damage done barely at the right time that he needed. Like 3 cannons in the top right completely denies those vultures, and he's totally safe. But you know what? He saves center right nexus. It's super, super low. Top right nexus is going to go down. This is basically 2 base economy Terran versus what, 3 basically about to be 2 base economy Protoss. This is so darn close, it's almost impossible to call. Snow's got a little bit of a supply lead, and he's going to try to run it down on this top center. There's not quite enough here, but I think reinforcements are close. Let's see if he can save this base. Reaver drops down on top of everything, landing huge splash on this back line. The Reaver's going to do so much work in these small engagements here with the tiny bits of forces. He's actually going to break this base. Counterattack the one cannon here again. He's going to lose so many probes. Guys, I don't know what to say. This game is so crazy.
It's really wild, man. I mean, well, both players just mined out their mineral onlys, so yeah, it's going to be just one base for Royal at that 9 o'clock, and almost one base for Snow as well. I imagine 6 o'clock is about to be mined out, and he's not actually currently mining the 3 o'clock after losing all those probes, so really low economy game state from both players. This does favor the Terran player. I think in a way it's good that Royal lost that base at 12, because splitting himself so thin at 2 junctions that were so far apart was a bit untenable. Now he can consolidate most of his defensive force towards where the mineral only is, and that 9 o'clock position. It'll be much easier to defend the counterattacks of Snow from this point onwards, and maybe Royal can find a way of closing out this game. He's trying to reinforce the center position where he had some tanks in outpost. Snow seemingly running down and overwhelming that force, and now Royal in retreat to the ridgeline location, and there is a chance for Snow to slowly claw his way back in this game, but he has to get this base operational in the top right. It's going to take him a long time to get back up onto his feet and in fighting condition, but he's done the heavy work thus far. Royal is kind of in trouble now because he's only got that one base worth of economy, and it's going to be really tough to actually get a second mining base online without facing counterattacks. Like, if he's trying to take 12 o'clock again, I feel like that's a losing move from Royal. I don't see how he's going to hold on to 12 o'clock and 9 simultaneously. It's just too far apart.
You know, I think in general this is better for Terran if you look at this on paper, but I feel like with a player like Snow, I honestly feel like this position is better for Snow. Like, his Reavers can do so much damage. Oh my gosh, as I say that, he walks into mines and loses so much there. Plus he loses the Reaver in top right, top center, not leaving a shuttle to keep juggling that. I feel like that's his win condition, is he just keeps it super scrappy and gets infinite kills with the Reaver. That's kind of how he can win this game, but if he keeps losing them, if he keeps running into mines, he's definitely going to end up being overwhelmed by Royal.
Yeah, taking this 12 o'clock base is fine. I think if he remains aggressive and keeps like forcing Snow into trades, but I'm not so sure. Like, I felt like maybe taking the natural and bottom left would have been safer and consolidating down there, but looks like Snow trying to push into this location, I think, is a bit of a mistake. I don't think he can get a lot done pushing into this much consolidation from Royal. There's just too many tanks there. Finally, Snow has stabilized in that top right, cleared out all the mines there, and there's no more vultures out on the map to counterattack. And now we've got the hard task of Royal in keep rotating between the 12 o'clock and the 9 o'clock to defend. Snow can just pick one point of weakness over and over again. It's going to be so hard for Royal to stay fluid and keep rotating his units around to reinforce either this ridgeline rally point, the 9 o'clock or the 12 o'clock at any given time. And looks like he's just barely in position. Does take out the shuttle though, so pretty good so far. Good split on the tanks as well. Does force a retreat out of Snow, so Royal not faltering thus far.
Just a few small mistakes here and there from Snow. Losing an extra shuttle there hurts very badly. Going a little bit too close to try and get some zealots into position. I don't know how much was in there behind the High Templar, but it could have been a Reaver, it could have been extra High Templar, maybe just some zealots. This is getting way too close, man. I think Royal is starting to pull ahead, though, as these bases are all set up, and he's managed to contain the threat there at the natural. Snow's having a hard time rotating around. He's going to try to get another base online, and if he manages to get the base over here at the natural set top right, I think he's going to really start to stabilize the game once again. But Royal's going to have another push coming pretty soon. Like, he's going to be able to put on a lot of pressure. It's going to have to be that top right, though, that he goes for.
Yeah, I think Royal's just identified that he's in a good position.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this Vulture drop is so good in the top right. He's going to shut down the mining there for a little bit of time. There is a DT to eventually establish some control, but actually a scan comes out very quickly to clear that out. And yeah, Royal just going to see if he can run it down on these probes before the units arrive to clean them out. And I think after identifying how few probes are at 3 o'clock and seeing that 6 o'clock was mined out, I think Royal now knows, okay, I'm in an actually fantastic position. I just need to hold on to these 2 bases and I'm okay. But there's not loads of units here at the 12 o'clock position. Royal is spread pretty thin between the 12, the 9, and the rally point location. Snow trying to run it down on 12 o'clock while he's got a little bit of a window to exploit. Royal's rotating up here with more and more forces, and Snow's having a hard time getting his units down this bottleneck of a ramp. Does look like he might be successful in overrunning this position eventually, though. This is actually a really good opportunity for Snow to turn the tide. If he can shut down the mining here at 12 o'clock, that's going to be so huge for his win condition.
Oh my god, he's just going to do it with Reavers again. That's crazy, dude. How is he actually beating this army? He was 20 supply behind. That's not going to connect. Okay. Can he actually get the CC, though? The CC is very low. Can he target it? Can he target the CC? Oh my god, it's burning. 4 Dragoons go down, and he's not able to get it. 100 HP left on that. I think he'll get the repair, though, and reestablish this base. Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy that he keeps that alive. But he will just barely reestablish this location. Snow is running on fumes here. He's got hardly any probes at all. He's not been able to take that extra Nexus, though the probe has been sitting there for such a long time, waiting on that extra 400 resources. Oh,
yeah.
Is that going to burn down? Hold on.
If he doesn't repair it,
Okay,
it's so low. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, but basically Snow was all in there. Like, he knew he had to kill that base. If he's going to go for an attack, he needs to actually be successful in killing that base, or he's just going to be behind. And yeah, unfortunately, it does look like it is going to be behind situation for Snow. Oh, he's even losing some Dragoons to mines. He's trying to rotate round now to the 9 o'clock to see if he can punish this position. But there's plenty of tanks in the back line and a turret as well. He can't really get in there and do much. Looks like this is going to be Royal's game unless somehow Snow can quickly expand and come up with some different win conditions, and he hasn't elected to do that. He's just pumping out units and trying to keep Royal on the back foot, but that's kind of playing into Royal's hand now. He's got a pretty sizable army, and that shuttle getting dangerously low.
That should be it, man. The shuttle goes in deep. He wanted to try and break that position. It was a perfectly set up defensive spot from Royal. Had the angle there in case he wanted to try anything with the Reavers, and he's relying on like 1 DT right now to just do so much heavy lifting. Army's going to be caught up here in the top left. Looks like that's going to end up going down, and we're going to see the tap out here any moment, I think. Wait. Okay, Reaver coming in from behind. Double Reaver here. Dodged on the mine. Very nicely done. Keeping that alive. Keeping the hopes and dreams of Protoss on life support here as he tries to kind of put himself back into this game. Oh my gosh, okay, another storm. Another couple of Reaver shots would be fantastic. He loses one of the Reavers, but he gets an amazing hit there. Dropping down to 62 supply to 73. My god, it couldn't be closer. But Royal is closing in. He's getting over here towards the center right. It looks like he's actually going to kind of split Snow up a little bit, but that would actually might get kind of closer to the rallies. He's going to be able to get a few more Zealots in a position. He doesn't have a scan. Okay, he scans, but he loses a tank for that, and here comes that Zealot rally I was talking about. He's going to get over here just in the nick of time. He's going to kill this army, Shun. What the heck?
Oh my gosh, what is happening in this game?
Oh,
Royal could have been at risk of throwing this game, and the Nexus is so low. But he has donated so many units to Snow for his effort, and the base at 9 is mined out. What is happening? Snow can just take this natural expansion in the top right and, you know, consolidate his position yet again. And because he had so few probes at 3 o'clock for so long, it actually isn't that close to being mined out as well. well. Like, Snow can transition from this point, and suddenly Royal's the one who needs to find a tough order of business of either expanding it again or going all in. Looks like he wants to keep the pressure on instead. Another 4 drop hit squad in the top right with Vultures coming down to scoop up some probe kills. This game is probably one of the most action-packed, back and forth, pendulum swinging battles we've seen in a long time, saying, and what better place to take part in the octagon. Really solid play from both sides, but there's just enough flimsiness to create such chaos. And I mean, I don't even know how to call this, man. I think Royal's still got it, but there's enough wiggle room for Snow to make this work.
I mean, I've gone back and forth like 4 times already in this game, Shun. You know that as well as the audience. This has been such a crazy one. I think, oh my god, this Reaver shuttle is still alive. Oh, how is this happening, Shun? How is this still happening?
God.
That's on like 2 HP. He barely dodges the mine. He's still got this Reaver going. He's completely denied mining over at top center. He can get all these SCVs as well. The SCVs can't come back. They cannot return any minerals.
Gosh.
He's stuck at 70 minerals, and Snow is still making units.
I mean, this should have been a Royal victory, but Snow, with that crazy level of micro, is making it work somehow, some way. And, oh, another pretty big Scarab hit. I don't think he can get too much more at this location. Turret's just about to finish up to stabilize. Tanks now rotating around to this top right position, but there's another Reaver to scoop up. He needs to target the shuttle with the Goliaths, but he's not doing it. And now he can keep microing these Reavers over and over again and pull back as he needs to the defensive line of the gateway in the top right. He made a DT, did scan to annihilate that. One Reaver super low does get targeted down by the tanks. Look at these studded out Scarabs. Oh my gosh, this game is absolutely insanity, man. He's got a couple of units rotating to that 12 o'clock position, trying to overwhelm the 2 tanks that are set up there, but Royal is not deterred. He's gonna run it down on that last mining base, the last beacon of hope of Snow in the top right. And I think that Snow might just barely kill this tank in the 12 o'clock, but he's going to actually end up intercepting the tanks rotating from the top right to the 12 o'clock. This game is crazy, saying both players have so few units on the board. Look at the supplies. This is crazy.
Oh, he killed the last tanks. He killed the last tanks that were coming to defend top center. Oh, Royal is mining here, but there's 3 Dragoons that are going to start killing a lot of these workers. Dude, Snow is just barely getting his 41 supply to 43. What is happening in this game? I cannot believe it, but I mean, I feel like he needs to fight with the SCVs. There's almost no HP on any of these Dragoons.
Yeah.
They have so much armor, though. What is happening? He kills top right. Top right goes down. He's got 1 more Reaver.
I think he's got a CC in the bottom left. I think he's got a CC in the bottom left. He can just rotate all the SCVs down to the bottom left to start mining. These 3 tanks are critical. He can't afford to sacrifice these. Has got some mines to buffer as well. Does try and get a shot off on the Reaver. This is the most insane TVP we've casted in a long time, saying he does have that CC in the bottom left natural pocket to start mining as well, and killing that next in the top right is huge. Now Snow just long distance mining with some probes at the 3 o'clock. Eventually Royal will end up winning this game state, but there is a utility advantage for Snow with the shuttle and Reaver in conjunction. If he can identify that mining base in the bottom left, maybe Snow can still win this game, but I don't think he knows about it.
Oh, if he knew about this base down here, he would definitely be headed this direction. He's like trying to kill these last 2 tanks right now, but it's a bit of a bait. There's actually a dropship over there. Drop is going to come around and pick up these 2 tanks and save them. You're kidding me. He gets out with these 2 tanks. Oh my god. Royal's going to be able to head down to bottom left and start to defend that base. Snow has to know that there's something else on the map right now, and he's got to move very quickly to shut that down. He actually might get baited by this top center. Like, he might see the top center and think that's the only base.
Yeah, I actually don't think that Snow will identify it right away. I think this will fake him out long enough that he thinks he just needs to play for this 12 o'clock position. And I think this is very wise from Royal to try and retake this 12 o'clock base, because it is going to bait Snow into into thinking that that's all he has to do is to come in here to this 12 o'clock position and overwhelm it, when that's not the reality. The longer that base is mining in the bottom left, the closer and closer Royal gets to a victory now. Snow's operating on fumes. Snow taps out. GG is cool. One of the best TVPs we've had in a long time. Royals shutting down Snow's hopes of an all-kill prize. Gets their clapper from KCM. Honestly, one of the best games. Not even just TVPs. One of the best games we've cast in a long, long time. Even KCM's got his head in his hands. That was a seriously insane game, man.
And just like that, Royale with cheese stole my heart again. I'm back on the Royale train, man. I thought he was faltering a little bit. I was worried about his chances this season, but that was something special, man. He showed a lot of heart. He showed a ton of grit in that game to just,
a lot of class.
Just grind it out versus Snow. And you know, keep on pushing and looking for the mistakes. There were very few mistakes from Snow that game, but they were there. Just tiny little opportunities. They managed to eke out a bit of an advantage slowly over time. And now the true cheese master has been activated. He's going to start building barracks in the main base. The French Big Mac is here to stay.
Right in the corner, so the second Overlord has no hope of finding it as well. Oh my god, man. And what's so funny is that Hero was watching that last game, and he's not thinking about any early game shenanigans. That's the hilarious thing about StarCraft. The longer a game is, the less chance of you identifying an early cheese in the next game, even if you're not playing, because your brain is kind of like operating on like, how am I going to optimize for a stronger mid game and what have you. If you're playing like a best of 7 series and you've just had a 50-minute long game or a 40-minute long game, or however long it is, it's really good to go for a cheese in the next game, because the player just isn't thinking about it. They're too busy thinking like 10 steps ahead of how they're going to be playing a really strong macro game in the next one. They're not going to be thinking about the micro optimizations right at the start of craziness that can occur.
What is he going to do with this, Shun? Is he going to build a bunker like behind the mineral patches at the bottom or something like that? What are we going to see here?
Maybe.
He's got the gas. So, I mean, he's gonna be going for a vulture here afterwards. I think he's waiting for like maybe 3 Marines to pop out and waiting for the Lings maybe to start coming across the map. Yeah, these Lings are going to be sent directly out. How many is he actually going to produce before it's going to start producing drones again, so that he can get this sunken colony at the front?
What's so genius about this is that Hero knows this is a proxy Rax, but he just doesn't expect the proxy Rax to be like this close to him, right? Like, this is about as close as the proxy Rax as it can be. And he's actually building the proxy factory, not proxy. He's building it in the very corner of his map, just so there's no hope of Hero finding it and slowing it down with the drone, though the drone scout or the Lings as well. But there is going to be Lings inside the main base. He's going to have to micro SCVs against Lings in the main. Now he's putting that bunker in the main base of Hero as well to fall back on. Hero going to see if he can get a surround on that with the drones in conjunction with the Lings, but he's not successful in doing that. But he has got 4 Lings in the main base of Royal with a drone, so Royal does have to evacuate. And he found the factory. He found the factory, so he has to cancel. This is getting spicy now, because Royal might not be able to actually finish the job against Hero. He's going to get that main hatchery, but Hero can just hold this natural expansion location.
Oh my god, Shun. What am I looking at right now? Lings are going to come back across the map. I think with everything together, Hero might be able to beat this, but he's going to lose his spawning pool, man. I think he's making only Lings right now. When these Lings pop out, he's going to go for it. All right, the Lings pop out. He doesn't pull the trigger. He's waiting for the rest of them to come back. SCVs are coming. Oh my god, all the SCVs are here as well. He's trying to pull up towards the SCVs so that they can all fight together. He's going to block with the SCVs. The Marines Marines are getting in behind. Oh my gosh, she's actually on top of all this. Here comes those reinforcing lings from the front line, actually coming all the way back here. There's only 2 lings left. He can't make lings, Shun.
Oh my god. This is crazy, but he can't actually, if he attacks though, the drones could drill onto the gas that's still available in the main base. So Royal's going to be a little bit tentative about how he pushes and try and get a bunker up. What a bizarre game we're witnessing right now. He's also making a creep colony eventually to morph into a sunken once that pool that's being remade in the natural finally finishes. But he has got enough SCVs to run it down. He's going to go for it now. Has the bunker to fall back to for safety. It's in range of the sunken. Oh my god. This is an absolute insane game to follow up that last Terran versus Protoss, man. Royal is such a spicy guy. There's going to be another sunken made to try and combat this, but it's not going to be enough. There's not enough DPS available to Hero. He's going to have to try and produce links to establish control, and Royal's going to retake the main base of Hero to go back to mining eventually. I don't think Hero can win anymore.
No, 4 lings is not quite going to cut it, man. Not with the Marines over on this side as well. Like, you just can't get on top of everything here. He only has 14 minerals to repair, though. That is one thing, right? You can't repair through the damage here because the 14 minerals will not last very long. It's more about denying the surface area here, and there he is, diving on top of this. It's too much, man. The SCVs attacking from behind, the Marines attacking from inside the bunker is going to be enough, and GG is called. Royal running it back here, taking out Hero. What a crazy follow-up to an absolutely insane game. What's going to happen next year at the KCM? Wow, Shun, 2 back-to-back mind-bending, head-banging, gut-busting games. And here we are now with Best versus Royal. Royal spawning in the bottom left. Best in the bottom right. Can it get any crazier? And what's Royal's plan for this next TVP?
Well, I want to say it's going to normalize. I doubt this game is going to surpass those last 2 games. Quite literally some of the craziest back-to-back games that we've seen in KCM for a very long time. And who knows, man, with how things are positioned, it looks like we might be seeing either a CC first or a Nexus first or both from these guys. Neither player looks like they're optimizing for early game defense. I think both players are going to be expanding. Okay, it's going to be a bunker expand, at least here from Royal. Okay, he's going to take the gas as well. So it looks like it's going to be a Nexus first against a more traditional opening from Royal. So we are starting to approach some level of normalcy here in this next game. But this is close position, so this is possible that Royal gets a fairly early scout and he can pull the boys on this as well.
Yeah, he went 11 gas there, so potential to get a super fast factory and pull the boys. You know, get that first vulture over really quickly early on. You can kind of slip by even potentially before the first Dragoon pops out. It's going to be a little bit hard here for Best, who's going to scout last as well. Royal also going to be scouting last here, unfortunately for him, but at least he'll know where to send the vulture, right? He knows that he's going to be sending that down to the bottom right. Can he actually slip by here in time? Best is doing the greedy version of this build, I think, with only 1 gateway, so he might be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think when he realizes that Royal's in bottom left, he's going to be a little bit unhappy about that. There is going to be a lot of opportunity for Royal to just run it down with the boys being pulled, and could get a pretty easy win with all things said and done, especially with that slightly faster gas timing. We'll see. He's not going to pull the boys just yet. He's going to wait until that first vulture is about to pop out before starting to do that. He gets the good news now, though. SCV Scout sees that this is the greedy variant of the build, and you know, Best is going to have to end up building shield batteries and all that good stuff to defend against this if Royal does elect to pull those SCVs. Oh, he's almost in. He does kill the probe scout as well. That's huge. Now Best won't get confirmation on whether or not that attack is incoming or not. He has to commit another probe scout potentially to identify that, and that's not a place you want to be in.
Royal is such a G. Oh my god. It's crazy. He knew that that probe was going to be coming in for the scout now. And just moves out to catch it. Absolute denial of any vision and understanding of what's going on here from Best. SCVs are going to be pulled now. 100% the right call here. He should absolutely punish, and he's not going to have the opportunity to, you know, send the Vulture directly in because he's got to chase this initial Zealot, but he's going to leave that at a low HP for the second Vulture to pick up. Making up some time here, getting across the map as quickly as he can. This is going to be a tough hold from Best, and he doesn't even have a shield battery, man. He might just abandon the Nexus.
Yeah, he might have to. It looks like he will just evacuate, and this isn't the worst play as well. Like, you're kind of okay as Protoss as long as you don't lose the probes. You can kind of give up the Nexus and still be in a reasonable game state. So it does look like that's going to be the order of business here from Best. He's poking a little bit with this Dragoon, but if you're not careful, the Terran can start to approach the high ground, especially if you're only on one gateway. Here comes the probe drill to try and stop Royal from going for something like that. A little bit of risk-taking here from Best, trying to see if he can snipe a few units more than he would usually be able to get away with. Does look like he is going to sacrifice this Nexus when all said and done. It's just the range upgrade on the Dragoons, the Singularity Charge, not going to be finished in time to actually get down here and save this Nexus, unfortunately. But as long as you save the probes, the game is still fine for Protoss. The CC is a little bit delayed, and they did have to pull the SCVs to attack, so on paper, you're actually not that bad off as Protoss.
Yeah, you're going to have to wait until the Observer's out, though. That's the big problem here, because the Vultures are over here so early, and he breaks this Nexus. You're definitely going to have mines down here at the bottom. It's really hard to do that typical mine trick that we often see, you know? Walking forward and then dragging the mine and then trying to back up, because the Dragoons will auto-target the bunker if it's in range. So you really have to be careful with trying to push out here against these mines. And he's left the exact right number of SCVs on the ramp here, by the way, or at the bunker, excuse me. Gonna try to just clear that with the Zealot. That makes a lot of sense. Is he gonna bait this mine? Okay, he actually gets rid of it.
Wow.
That was a bit lucky there for Best, but he does manage to get rid of the mine there without taking any additional damage, and will overwhelm this bunker now with superior fire. That's gonna go down. Probably a double expansion to follow this up from Best, or from Best. So Royal, what's he going to do to try and capitalize on that play? Are we going to see like a 4 factory play to follow this up, or does he want to play it out a little bit more normal?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because the Protoss player doesn't have to double expand. You know, they could just go for a very strong 2-base Bulldog timing as well. So there's no perfect cookie cutter answer. I'd be happy with him just throwing down a second factory and teching up a little bit and consolidating and getting an eBay for turrets. That's totally fine as well. But there is no like answer that's good against everything, unfortunately. He has to kind of like try and hedge his bets a little bit. Looks like he is gonna make an engineering bay right off the bat. I think that's a smart call. I think no matter what happens, you need to make that engineering bay. The question is, do we make just the second factory and call it a day and consolidate, or do we try and go for a push timing, assuming a double expansion? It's hard to call for Terran, honestly, because you could try and throw down a bunch of factories and go for a push timing, and suddenly they've stayed on 2 bases for a long time and they've got crazy amounts of units. And because they did manage to retain a lot of probes overall. Luckily, it's Best and not Snow, so you can kind of rely on the Reavers not doing as much damage as usual, but still going to be a tough call for Royal to make. I don't think there is an easy answer. I think you go up to at least maybe 2 or 3 factories, and then you try and scout how fast the 3rd base is before making any additional calls.
Yeah, it's looking like that 3rd base is going to come down. I would expect it from Best. Just the way that he plays, that he would want to get the double expansion going here, and he should be able to get away with it. Royal went for an armory, and he's got this eBay down as well, so he doesn't have scans. It's hard to push out against. best right now. Better to just kind of lock down here, maybe go for like a 1-1 timing after the fact. But Bez he's not that bad off at this point. He made it quite a few probes from that initial Nexus. Even though it was killed, he was able to run away basically all the probes, saved every single probe. So he's able to get some pretty good saturation going here on 3 bases very quickly. And Royal had to pull a lot of SCVs off of his line, left some over at the bunker there to just repair as well to buy that time. So, you know, quite a bit of lost mining time for him as well. Definitely a playable game on both sides, and we could be in for a really decent DVP here between these two. Best is an absolute beast, just like Snow, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, he's like a pure macro task, just like really strong fundamentals, knowing how to engage and what have you. It does seem like as soon as Royal spotted that 3rd base with the Vulture, he immediately threw down an additional 2 factories going up to 4, and also has 5, and he also has this CC on the way to float over to this mineral only soon as well. I think this is the answer to what Best is doing, but it's smart that he didn't make that call until he identified the double expansion with the Vulture. I really like that play from Royal, just to try and get confirmation. You can make assumptions in StarCraft, but when you're playing Terran, assumptions aren't good enough. You kind of do need confirmation before making any solidified plays like this. So it's great that now he knows what he needs to do going forward, but it is Best, one of the best macro Protoss players on the planet. So it's not going to be easy, but with that early game shenanigans, Best isn't going to be super optimized going forward as well. There might be just enough breathing room for Royal to get a good push timing going, and he actually kills the Observer here. That's really nice too.
Yeah, killing the Observer initially will make it harder for Best to do this play where he keeps picking up the Reavers and backing up just in the nick of time. He's going to get 1 tank here, but now Royal's coming forward with the 4 Goliaths. Those will 2-shot this shuttle if it strays a little bit too close. He's got the Charon boosters as well. And so with only losing 1 tank, we'll immediately be able to take this 3rd base. Not too bad for Royal as he solidifies this position. Best keeping out of range, keeping those Reavers on high HP, though. Maybe he can open up a timing to try and bust Royal open. However, Royal looks like he's committed here, going up to, what is it, 7 factory, 8 factory, something like that?
9.
Immediately, once this 3rd base is down. So we know exactly what type of play he's angling for. Gonna have a very strong 1-1 timing to try and punish Best.
Yeah, this is gonna be a 9 factory play of 3 base. It's gonna be technically semi all in. You want to do damage with this, but it's basically the style of Terran where, you know, you're just trying to have as many units as possible, and you're not going to be rushing to those +2 upgrades for a very long time. And he's expecting Best to take a fast 4th base, and he is. So this is great play from Royal overall. This is going to be the most guaranteed way of getting some damage done and slowing the Protoss player down from getting too set up. He doesn't want to let Best sit back and do his usual thing, especially not get a second rally point online quickly. Looks like Best, though, hasn't decided to take this top right as his 4th base, so that rally point will be a long way off anyway. But he has sent all of his army up here to clear it out so that a probe can get up there to set up a 5th base and get that rally point on the way. And just when that rally point is starting to come online, Royal will be moving out with a crazy amount of units to try and punish Best.
Yeah, he's going to be very Vulture heavy with this army. Quite a few Goliaths as well, but that's what you can afford here on 2 gases on 3 bays, right? He's got that mineral only. The extra factories are definitely warranted to just keep slamming out those Vultures in high number, enough to overwhelm Best, who's just famous for having, you know, insane amounts of Zealot rallies. You gotta have that mass, that bulk, and you can see in the supply right now, Royal is bulking up like crazy. 158 supply, just past Best, actually, now by 10 supply above him, setting up on this high ground. There are 2 Reavers here, but he's gonna start targeting those down. We saw his great targeting and dealing damage even to Snow's Reavers, so Not even Snow can stay out of range of Royal forever, and Royal's already put some damage on those. He hasn't killed them off yet. If those were to die, I think that Royal's just going to completely unsiege everything and just go. So Best needs to buy a little bit more time here so that he can keep this defense rolling so he can get a few more rounds of units out. Royal pushing forward already, though. Sieging up here within range. Gotta back up again. Try to buy a little bit more time. Bez is setting up in the top right, but he's not quite ready yet.
Yeah, usually speed lots and storm are enough to halt a Terran advance at this timing, but because there's 9 factories behind it, there's just going to be way too much for Best to easily stop. On paper, this should be a Royal victory, but with good maneuvering, Best can still pull a win out of the bag. It depends on how tentative Royal is with shuffling his tanks around and leapfrogging forward. As long as he keeps the tanks reasonably spread, by the time those storms come in, if he can't get enough value trades, Royal should be able to win out. Does pick off one of those Reavers as well. Best trying to buy as much time as possible for Templars to get more energy and a few more rounds of units and shuttles to be made, but looks like he's forced to engage. There is a DT in the back line doing some chip damage as well. Here come some of those storms now, but the tanks are somewhat reasonably spread in the front line. Tanks in the back a little bit stacked up, but he can't get deep enough to target those, and Royal doing a great job of scanning and killing these observers over and over again to kind of make Best unable to perfectly decide how and when to engage.
Ooh, GGs are still filing in here. He got rid of the turret. Is there another scan ready to deal with this? He actually desperately needs a scan here. The tanks are doing great, or the DTs are doing great work on the tanks, and now can one-shot all 4 of these. 3, 4, he's gonna get the last one. No, he doesn't quite finish off that last tank there in the back line. The DT is doing so much work, but a scan finally comes through, and he's diving on top of the back line of this army. Best is falling back here. Royal at a solid 20 supply advantage.
Yeah, this is looking better and better for Royal. He just needs to make sure he doesn't make any blunders here positionally against Best. Best trying to fight back strong with what few units he has got available. That's a pretty good Scarab hit. Does manage to get another Scarab hit to finish up 2 of those tanks, but loses the Reaver in the process. He's just got a handful of Dragoons left remaining. Couple of Templars as well for some storms. Royal now mining on a 4th base at 9 o'clock as well to boot. Finally, that rally point in the top right starting to come online for Best, but a little bit behind schedule for the timing that Royal is going for. And this is the style that Royal loves to do against Protoss when they're trying to take a fast expansion effort. Just having like a crazy amount of factories and then take a delayed 4th base does seem to really work out for him. Still more and more Dark Templars filing in, but not quite being successful anymore. Suddenly the Terran is starting to put the stranglehold onto the Protoss player. Best in a little bit of trouble now. There is still room for maneuver. Does get a Zealot Bomb on one of those tanks, but Goliath still making it hard to go too deep. Does get some storm combos on the front line of tanks. Now just 3 remaining. Best trying to hang on as best as possible. Has got a counterattack here at the 9 o'clock with a DT. Some vultures being delegated to deal with that, but it looks like the writing is on the wall for Best. He's struggling to hold on and fight back against this contain.
I don't know. It's looking like maybe he can just barely break through. Only 3 tanks left over. Another bit of a rally comes forward here. Another tank from the south, but looks like Best is starting to break this containment. Royal falling a little bit behind on his macro. With the 4 bases, he could have added on a few more factories, it seems like. Maybe even some more add-ons as well to keep the tank count a little bit higher, but he's been pushed back. He's been broken. He's going to send out vultures all over the map to look at the damage, see where he can maybe get some attacks going in, but I don't think he can continue this push anymore. He's got 5 tanks and that's it. To try and break Best, that's not enough.
Yeah, Royal's a little bit slow in reinforcing that contain, so Best does temporarily break out, but I don't think it matters. He's got so many units on the board right now, but he has done a great job of blocking in this top right expansion. 2 Dragoons blocking the way and a cannon behind it. He's mining up the ramp to try and breach through. That does finally get the execution on those 2 Dragoons, and now the vultures flooding in to overwhelm that expansion in the top right. That's going to force the units of Best to come up here and try to defend and hang on, and now that's going to be another trigger for the Terran to to move out with the rest of his army at the rally point as well. He's even got a 5th base, does Royal, in the top left corner. So this is getting better and better for the Terran. He has given up the contain on the Protoss player, but he's now consolidated in his macro efforts, and that's the thing that Best does better than pretty much any other Protoss player. So if you've got Best covered in the macro, you're probably gonna end up winning the game.
Yeah, I don't know how he's managed to stay on par this whole time. The position was pretty good after the Nexus bust, but man, you got to give it to Royal here for just being absolutely on point with that. Keeping up with Best is no easy feat. A drop here as well. Drops in the game versus Snow played such a massive factor. They really haven't played much of a factor here though, and in fact Best will shut that down. Best, you can just tell how much more mechanically solid he is than Snow. Even though the micro is definitely firmly on the side of Snow in these engagements, I feel like Best is just, he's got the cannons where they need to be, he's got the units where they need to be, he's got the probes all coming out and being immediately sent to the mining fields. He's definitely got the macro where it needs to be, but still Royal is managing to find windows here. He's still managing to keep himself in a good position, and those upgrades are coming online, Shun. It's a ticking time bomb, and I don't know if Best is ready for the explosion.
Yeah, this is the one window where Best could shine. He's just now broken most of these positions and stabilized. He now needs to be as aggressive as possible and get up here into the top left. If he can stop this base from mining in the top left and defend the counterattack from Royal, he then has a win condition. He's almost set up to do that now. He's actually going to rotate and just try and push into the 9 o'clock position. I don't think that's the wise decision here from Best. There's a few too many units stabilized at that junction. He's sending one single zealot up here to scout that corner, so he is going to finally identify that base. He would have gone up there with some dragoons already had he known about it. He's going to get the bad news now that he missed an opportunity to capitalize on that, unfortunately. But it's not over for Best yet. He has a little bit of wiggle room to maneuver with now. He's about to be maxed out, but how he's going to stabilize against this massive army move out from Royal, he's almost maxed out. He has got 3-2 upgrades, does Best, and I think Royal's only going to be on 2-2 for the time being, so not the worst case scenario for our Protoss player, and he is going to eventually get up there into that top left to clear it out, so there's a little bit of hope for Best still.
Yeah, this is scary though. I mean, Best has a bunch of dragoons in the top left that are not part of this army. Look at the spread here from Royal as well. With 183 supply, he's not quite on 2-2. That's a big problem here for Royal right now. That 2+2 upgrade hasn't finished. So taking an engagement right now, although the army is split, it's a little bit scary. You don't want to throw away your army at kind of an anti-timing right before that +2 finishes. He's already taken some damage from these storms and being slowed down, dropping down to 176 supply. Oh man, I think Best actually might run this over. He has so many zealots here. There's not quite enough mines. He's thinking about diving on top of it. There are some more storms available. That's a lot of Goliaths. It's all going to come down to the storms here and whether or not the Goliaths can gun down those shuttles in time. Coming around for a flank on this army. Best is just clearing out all the mines. He's not taking any damage to the mines here. And he's getting ready to get this flank going. Okay, just a massive siege up for Royal, but a lot of this stuff is stacked. The tanks at the top, in the back line here, are very, very stacked. The storms at the front are fantastic. He doesn't get a D-Matrix off either, and those storms are those tanks are just begging for a storm there in the back line.
Yeah, he's got a lot of zealots to this northern hemisphere, by the way. He's gearing up for a counterattack. He's trying to hold on with as few units as possible and set up to maybe bowl over the 9 o'clock base when Royal fully commits to knocking out this mineral-only expansion. Let's see if he can actually make this work. There's only like 3 tanks here total to defend. Dragoon's body blocking the zealots a little bit here before he can fully come in and crush this, but I don't think there's going to be enough reinforcements to easily deal with this counterattack. He has got some tanks moving in to set up firing positions, but Best could still find a way of running it down and doing a lot of damage back at home for Royal. Royal is going to be able to kill this mineral-only expansion, but if he loses mining at this 9 o'clock and Best doesn't straight up die, he's going to get a worse and worse game state. The mineral-only is about to become mined out. Best is also mining this natural expansion here in the northeastern quadrant as well, so this is going to get better and better for Best. If as long as he can just avoid dying, he's forced a full retreat from Royal's main battle line, and now that will trigger Best to clear up anything that was remaining on aisle 5 towards his own base. So Best is an absolute genius right now of how he's outmaneuvering the Terran player. Does finally get his force cleaned up at the 9 o'clock, and just when Royal finishes doing that, now Best pushing out to challenge this 6 o'clock that was recently established.
Wow, that's crazy. He's actually going to stop this base, man. He's going to force all the SCVs back. This is a great storm as well. Really punishing Royal as he tries to save this 6 o'clock. I thought this 6 o'clock was genius when Royal had the army up on the high ground at best mineral only, but as soon as he pulled that away, this became a massive liability, and he lost so many SCVs because of that spot, that position. A rare moment here, Best just running into mines, but he's immediately going to switch back into an attack at the center left. He's just seesawing Royal back and forth across the map and not allowing him to stabilize and getting further and further ahead.
Yeah, and that mineral only for Royal about to be mined out, so this is pretty critical damage, and Best now enjoying a 40 supply lead. I can't believe it, man. Like, this game looked like it was all over for Best not too long ago, but he's been able to play such a stellar game of just, you know, playing keep away with the Terran army at most junctions and not really having to be forced to do any direct engagements when he doesn't want to, and he's just trying to make a very scrappy game of it and pull Royal around the map all over the place. And now Royal struggling to catch up with the macro of the game, which is exactly where Best wants to be. I think that Best will also start doing some drops eventually. Yeah, there's even a shuttle hovering over that 9 o'clock. He's going to do a storm drop or something soon as well to capitalize on the low economic situation of the Terran. Currently running it down on the main battle line of all these siege tanks. Has a Templar as well. It looks like he is going to be successful in clearing out all of those tanks. And Royal, unfortunately, despite being in such a great game position most of the game, he hasn't been able to capitalize it, and now Best looking to be closer and closer to his win condition.
Best is something else, man. 149 supply here. Totally eclipsing Royal after killing off those tanks. Royal is technically going to be mining on 2 bases here in a moment, but I think something just went into bottom center. Maybe a storm drop. Something just was sent down there that may be doing a little bit of damage to that economy. Preventing Royal from mining over at that location is the name of the game here, and in fact, looks like a few Dragoons will be sent down. These are some well-placed tanks. He'll be able to deal a little bit of extra damage here as he tries to push in. Looks like that Zealot is going to cost that tank its life, and GG is called. Best breaks him open by just seesawing back and forth. Royal has been defeated, and Protoss has secured victory, giving Snow a bit of a respite there, giving him a bit of catharsis there after such a long and hard battle between Snow and Royal. Best manages to clean him up here. Oh, what an incredible week. This has been just wild, actually. All right, a fantastic comeback from Best, and here we are with Best versus Queen. The last Zerg player in the squad just spawned in top right. Best down here representing the Protoss in the bottom right. Doing a great job as well so far. If he takes out Queen, JYJ should be surefire here for Best.
I think so, yeah. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier with that. I really do think that's going to be the case. And honestly, Best's PVZ, like, has a bit of, like, X factor, right? Like, he's like a comeback kid in that matchup. And yeah, I don't think JYJ can hold a candle to Best in PvT. So Best just needs to get through Queen. He'll be easily put 2 points on the board for Team Protoss here. And what a season Protoss has had as well, saying like we've had a lot of KCMs where Protoss kind of peters out in the middle weeks, but they're really on fire this season.
Yeah, they're doing fantastic, and they're bringing the best lineups. I think that's the reason why, right? In previous seasons we had them, you know, putting in a lot of YSC and a lot of other players as well. I don't mean to single him out, but they had been putting up the best lineups, right? There's so many different weeks where they didn't have Snow or Best. Actually, Best was maybe the most consistent, but yeah, no Snow, no Bisu, no Mini, and destroying in other players and getting kind of lackluster results here. They're putting together the best lineups. They're playing super, super well, and it's making me excited to see what Protoss can do this year in ASL.
Yeah, it's literally like a combination of 3 of the top 4 Protoss players every single time. The only one that's not here this time around, Mini. But yeah, these guys have been super great this season, and I love to see it, man. It was kind of sad to see Protoss not really perform that great in previous seasons, but yeah, it seems like the ticket is just bring along the best players every time, and you're probably going to scoop up some wins. And this is actually a problem for Best. Like, he's not even started the cannons, and the Lings are already on the way. Oh, Jesus. Is Best just going to die to Lings?
Kind of looking that way, Shun, and actually that'll even out the score overall. We'll have 1 Protoss, 1 Zerg, and 1 Terran, and it really seems like that's the way it's going to go. However, Best brings down the probes here just in the nick of time to try and fight before they jump on top of the cannon. 3, 4 probes have gone down so far. 5 is a little bit too much damage now with 9 total supply left over. Even if this cannon finishes, it's still a little bit too much pain here for Best to handle.
Yeah, this is a nice idea from Queen, just to bring these 4 into the main base and hiccup the mining and stop Best from having any chance at recovery. GG quickly called, and now things are a little bit up in the air. It's going to be Queen versus JYJ next, and honestly, TVZ, JYJ is pretty darn good, so let's see if he can win.
So we actually haven't seen a whole lot of JYJ recently, right, Shun? Like, this guy's been a little bit out of the zeitgeist for a bit. He just hasn't been around very much, so we'll see how he performs here today. But overall, his TVZ matchup historically has been the best. It's been really, really strong, and so going up against Queen here is exactly what he wants. And having Bisu eliminated especially, I mean, that makes a huge difference. He might actually be able to take on Bisu in that matchup.
Yeah, I think I would say he's more statistically likely to beat Bisu than Best. I think he's going to have a hard time either way, but certainly more capable of taking on someone of Bisu's style overall. Best is just way too strong of a fundamental Protoss. You kind of have to cheese him in that matchup to kind of negate that X factor that he's got. But I think, yeah, Queen going to be a much better aligned opponent for him. If the TVZ matchups carried him a lot in the past, he's actually opening things up with gas right off the bat, saying, so he's already going to give us something a little bit spicy.
Yeah, wow. Wait, is that... okay, hold on. I got a little bit mixed up here with the colors. We've got, yeah, that gas build coming out of JYJ. I was just, for whatever reason, I looked at the blue base when you said that he's doing a gas build, and I was like, wait, there's no barracks. Yes, here it is, the factory. Gas. Yeah, CC gas. I was like, what? That doesn't really line up to anything.
That's not a build.
That's not a build. But yes, Queen gonna be throwing down his sunken colony here in a moment. He's even got the SCV here just in case there was some sort of a bunker rush coming out of JYJ. JYJ, like every good Terran player in this matchup, highly aggressive, very volatile. He will go for things like a proxy racks, and so you have to be super careful to make sure be very safe in this early game to make sure that JYJ doesn't get an advantage, because he's not going to let it go.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's see how well Queen's playing today. I think he's been playing better than the past, but honestly, I'm still not 100% convinced by him. I still see a little bit of inconsistencies, not necessarily slumping, but yeah, just a few creases that he needs to iron out in his play. And JYJ going for a 1-1-1 build, getting that starport on the way. Gets full confirmation scout with that SCV. And Queen hasn't really had a lot of scouting information. He kind of has to make some assumptions here to be well defended against what JYJ wants to throw his way. He is making a safety sunken, but who knows, man? This could be a speed vulture drop into the main. This could be all kinds of things.
And Aspire starts back here at home. How far along is that sunken colony? Is that actually finished?
Yeah, it's finished. Yeah.
Gotta have that done here in time for the vulture, and seems like he's got everything lined up. Starport there in the main base, gonna make a Wraith, but will he follow it up with the vulture drop afterwards? We're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to find out here. JYJ not going for a bunker, just keeping that vulture in front of the natural should warn him if a big round of lings tries to pop out here, like the hatchery as well, to try and choke up this area. But you can still slip by on the bottom side of that hatchery. It's important to get either a couple of lings on the ramp or a drone underneath an overlord to try and block at that corner. So it's not a full wall, and it's not totally defended here, but JYJ doesn't seem to be wanting to get very aggressive. What do we think this is going to be from JYJ? Is it going to be a Valkyrie build? Is he going to try and run by?
I think it's going to be a Valkyrie build. I think it's going to be a speed vulture run by into Valkyrie build.
It makes sense. Drone out on the map. Whoa, where was that headed? Bit of a error there for Queen, showing a bit of that shakiness that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, he has been having some issues, but here come the speed vultures now. I anticipated this. Queen can block this potentially, but already the vulture's getting a decent amount of work done, and two do manage to survive on the left, and he's actually just going to dive in, but he does lose the Wraith to a Periscourge. Actually pretty good for Queen, and the fact that he was able to immediately kill all of the vultures, there's not that much slowdown in the mining anymore. So suddenly Queen, despite a little bit of shakiness, he's actually not much worse for wear.
It's funny. I think... Oh, he actually builds another Wraith. Oh, that's strange. I thought there would be a Valkyrie coming out for sure.
I think he's making one now.
Now he actually...
Oh, no, he's not.
He can't slow down. He can't slow down Queen because the vulture run by here has already been dealt with. The mutas are going to come straight across the map. He does not have a Valkyrie. I guess he didn't do a full commitment. Yeah, it looks like he made another round of drones after that. So Queen did not try to just hit a timing here at the mutas, assuming that there would be enough defense back at home, and so JYJ able to sneak by without a Valkyrie play there. That's pretty good for him.
This is a super weird build from JYJ. He's doing a variation of Crazy Terran. He's going to go straight into vessels, but he's going to use a couple of cloaked wraiths defensively so that the Queen can't really commit to an attack until Overlord speed is done. This is a very bizarre idea from JYJ, but I kind of like it. It's a very tactile play. It's very flimsy. You know, you're kind of weak to any kind of aggression from the Zerg, but it seems like he's getting away with it thus far.
Man, I really feel like Queen could have pulled JYJ apart if he had committed to mutas in this game. After killing the first Wraith, there was only the one Wraith for quite some time, and then just a couple of turrets in the main, and basically no Marines. If 6 mutas had come with some reinforcements on the way, it would have been super hard to hold this off. The cloak helps out a bit, but with just like 1 or 2 Wraiths attacking your mutas, it really doesn't add up to much. Like the energy runs out pretty quickly, especially if you just split the mutas and then come back in a minute or so.
Yeah, it's very true. But as it stands, JYJ is kind of going to get away with it, and he's going to have seriously quick vessels with a radiator. Now he's plopping down a bunch of barracks as well to recommit into that bio play. Very interesting stuff from JYJ. We don't see a lot of Terrans playing like this. Crazy Terran is a really strong counter to Crazy Zerg, but he's kind of doing his own variation of it, which is a bit more mid-rangey and kind of, you know, not thinking about Crazy Zerg at all. He's just kind of doing his own thing, and that's actually kind of thrown Queen off. I think Queen was a little bit confused this game with what he should be doing.
That might be the case. As it stands, I hope that he's figured out that he needs to get some lurkers online, this bio count is going to start to explode here. 5 barracks suddenly coming down. This damage at the third base is really painful. No overload at that location, so the mutas can't even come here to clear out this attack immediately. And he loses another drone. Not able to mine off of that third, and honestly, he doesn't have that high of a drone count right now. He has to re-drone and get into lurker as soon as possible, and even then it's going to be hard because the number of irradiates that will be available here in a moment is going to be overwhelming.
I mean, just as he pokes in with the mutas, irradiate is pretty much ready in just a few seconds here. And this is a really wild game. He does have some Scourge. Maybe he can dive bomb onto one of these vessels. Having a little bit of trouble splitting out those mutas. Oh my god, he's taken so much damage on those mutas. They're like pretty much already half HP or lower. This is not looking ideal for Queen, to say the least.
Yeah, that was a crazy amount of damage on these mutas. He's going to come back in and try to force the Marines back for a second. He really needs to buy time here. And there's going to be another irradiate come down. Put the muta on top of the SCVs. Okay, he's doing a little bit of damage with that, but back at home, lurkers have not even started in their eggs, man. It's just pure Hydras defending, and these Marines are coming, man. They are coming real fast. Oh, he gets a hit there with a Scourge and manages to pick off one vessel. That's very good. There's one lurker. Okay, he does have just one lurker for this ramp. Can this be broken by JYJ? I think it should be pretty easily.
He just checked with the Marine and sees there's only one spine though, so he knows there's only one lurker to contend with. That's going to make him feel very confident to push up on this ramp. Vessel does go down. That's nice for Queen, but
no
oh my god, he ran out of scan or something.
He's got no scan.
Oh my god,
he's got
no scan. Oh jeez.
Oh
I guess
my
you got to
god.
cut somewhere. That's a bit greedy from JYJ, honestly, to maintain SCV production and not even make scans because you got early vessels. But it ends up costing him in a big way. Now he can't break the 6 o'clock. Suddenly Queen's back in the game and looking okay.
I don't know if he's looking okay, but man, he survived there by the skin of his teeth by killing off that vessel.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Kind of an interesting style that JYJ is trying to show off here by going for no scanner at all and trying to go directly into vessel. Barely is able to block here with a couple of eggs on the ramp. Might lose this vessel as well. Okay, vessel does back up to a safe distance. Lurkers are going to press forward again. It seems like he will hold. Queen will hold and saves that egg as well, which is important. Pops out a full HP lurker, but only had 10 health on that egg, so about 10 more hits from the Marines would have actually killed that off. It only deals about 1 damage per hit. That's the bare minimum when the armor is overwhelming. So he manages to keep that alive. He manages to stay healthy here and has the third gas online. Is it just going to be pure Hydra Defiler from here? Because it's very hard to imagine him going into something like Ultra off of just this 3 gas and in such a desperate situation.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, none of the answers from Queen have been super obvious. Looks like he's trying to transition into a bit more of an orthodox style now, at least for the time being. He hasn't got that many hatcheries to macro out of, so I don't think it's going to be Hydra Defiler. I think it's just going to be Lurkerling Defiler, and then try and secure a 4th gas like that. He actually is building potentially an Ultra Cabin in the main base. I'm not sure what that building was. Maybe he is feeling like he can get away with it. I'm not so sure. But I think Queen's okay as long as he doesn't sustain much damage from this point onwards. He's done a pretty good job of holding thus far. JYJ a little bit behind the curve, but if he can break this position, he's in a fantastic spot. Queen a little bit out of position by having his lurkers so far forward like that, but he manages to stay alive. Now he's finally got his Defiler tech finished up, and JYJ will be relegated to having to try and expand and turn this into a longer game. That was just Triple Evo.
Triple Evo, okay. So, Triple Evo, I have to imagine that's Hydraless Defiler, right? Hydraless Defiler,
I think so,
the only thing that makes sense with Triple Evo. There's no way you're going to be making 3 upgrades and going Lurker or going Ultra on 3 gas. He's going to potentially take this mineral only as well and just maximize the number of Hydras and Lings that he can produce. Make a bare minimum number of Defilers here, diving on top of these Lurkers. Darkstorm comes out just in the nick of time. He holds here at the natural, but he's still taking a lot of damage from these vessels. The number of vessels is very high at this early stage in the game, and he's just constantly cycling them out and irradiating over and over again all the high-tech units from Queen.
Yeah, JYJ is going to have to go back to the lab a little bit here and reconsolidate his position. The timing window has closed on him quite significantly. He did do a great job up until this point, but now Queen is going to stabilize in a big way in just a few moments. If he can get a high enough vessel count and start chaining irradiates, that'll be huge. He can't afford to lose vessels like that, though, San.
Yeah, every vessel loss here is huge. Keeping the irradiate cycling in is the most important thing for JYJ right now, besides adding on these extra bases and getting them online, continuing to grow here while Queen is consolidating. He's looking for the first plague of the game. Great plague there on all these Marines, bring them down to just 1 HP. Catches a drone heading towards center left. That's very nice for JYJ as well. Preventing an easy move towards that center left, an easy base coming up on that side. In fact, the counterattack is moving around the top side of the map. Queen is looking for that fourth base, which should be getting thrown down here shortly by JYJ, who's trying to lean harder onto Queen right now, but is having a hard time actually dealing damage, and made a huge plague. There we go. Plague finally on some of these vessels will open up the opportunity to start sniping down some of this stuff. He gets a few Marines and Firebats medics with those Hydralists there, but the real prize is, of course, the science vessels, and keeping the Hydras out in front, trying to deal that damage before he can get the irradiates off is going to be key here for Queen.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why JYJ's elected to go for this style is because a fourth gas is actually really tricky to take for Terran on this map, which is why he's not tried to double expand. Loses a couple more vessels as well to Queen. This is going to get really hard for JYJ. In this position, usually you double expand as the Terran, but he hasn't really got a good place to take that fourth gas at, and the longer this goes on, as soon as Queen can snag a fourth gas for himself, that's going to be a huge win condition for the Zerg. JYJ is going to have to find another timing to exploit soon, or eventually I think Queen's going to grind him down.
I think this is the plan for JYJ, actually. I think he's going to stay on 3 base and try to deny the fourth gas. Great plague, though. And now suddenly, Queen is just going to be able to shove forward here unabashedly with these Hydralists. Nothing to really stop this. Some tanks are coming up slowly, but almost everything has been plagued here in this ball. So they just cannot stand up against the Hydras. Army comes down to bottom right. Lings are going to come down here to try and stop this. Can he actually get this fourth gas online, or is JYJ going to deny? It looks like he's got just barely enough to stop this from going down. It's going to be so close, Shin. 100 HP, 60, 50, 30. Oh my gosh, he gets it, but he keeps the drone alive. Yes, keeps the drone alive there. Really important moment as that drone can come back and restart this hatchery.
Yeah, Queen also taking 9 o'clock as a potential consolation prize, but if he gets both, that's going to be insane. One of the best ways of playing Zerg, taking 2 expansions in opposite corners of the map. Really hard for the Terran to split their focus, and if they do kill one, they're then out of position. So Queen playing a really good A game at the moment, but the vessel count is getting higher. There is a world in which he slowly turns this around, but he needs a big tank count to fight back against this Hydra composition of Queen. He's still sniping so many vessels. This is looking worse and worse for JYJ now.
JYJ pushed back all the way to the middle of the map and has a reasonable tank production, but he hasn't quite ramped it up enough, I feel. Only the one factory tank is not quite going to cut it, and that's the problem with not having that fourth gas. You can't go up to 2-3 factory tank production and maintain vessel production at the same time. This army on the top of the ramp is just annihilating this Marine medic. Usually Marine medic so good against the Hydralists, but with that high ground advantage and everything getting bottlenecked going up that ramp, he actually wins this fight, and now is on the aggression here. Gonna push into the center right. JYJ is not ready for this.
Yeah, man. I don't know if JYJ can hang on for much longer. Does try and preemptively get on top of this to file a force towards the 3 o'clock, though, to sandbag that. Looks like he might still be able to clean this up without too many losses, but now that these double expansions are starting to get online for Queen, once that gas starts to come in, it's going to be harder and harder for JYJ to stabilize. Looks like he's taking his mineral only as his fourth to try and give his economy a little bump, but I'm not so sure it's going to be enough. This army composition is just so cost efficient for Queen, and one of the only ways JYJ can really turn the tide is with a critical count of tanks, which he's not been able to ascertain. Queen's played a great game in just sniping all of the utility that's available to JYJ. There is now a decent vessel count yet again, but without the tanks on the ground to support, you have to wonder if this is a tenable position. He is going to make a gambit of this high ground, though, try and just circumnavigate the dark swarmed units and get right into Queen's face down here.
One plague goes off on this army. Does he have a second plague here? He does have a second dark swarm and a plague as well. Oh my gosh, this army is now trapped up here on the high ground. He thought he was sneaking by here to actually get into a good position, but he ends up being completely trapped against that wall and annihilated. JYJ down to just 118 supply. He's wide open here in the center right. He's finally added a second factory, but that tank count is just not high enough.
Yeah, it doesn't look ideal. He has scanned this base at 9 o'clock. He needs to start playing whack-a-mole with some of these expansions for Queen. You can't let a Zerg sit back and churn away on 5 gases like this. You're just not going to have a good time, and now even the supplies evening out, very indicative of a big advantage to Queen. I like the build order choice here from JYJ. It was very stylist, and I love the thought process behind it, but he just barely couldn't find the execution on that 6 o'clock earlier due to not having any scans, and now he's paying the price for kind of going all in with that strategy. He can't quite make up the difference in this late game phase where the Hydra Defiler style is just flourishing.
Yeah, he could even go into some Ultralists now. Wouldn't be a bad idea to start adding those in. With 5 gases, he can afford to produce absolutely everything that he wants. JYJ going to pressure the center left here. Doesn't have a Nidus Canal, so it's a little bit harder to get over here to actually support this base. However, he does slide by on the left-hand side with some Hydras. Going to try and keep this alive. Trying to actually target down the hatchery. If he could get rid of that hatchery, would make a big difference here in this game, but he won't get it. And the gas continues to churn away. 5 gas. It's just a little bit too difficult for JYJ to fight against. We're at 21 minutes, and the main is starting to mine out. And the natural will be mining out shortly after that in terms of gas. But with this many rolling out on the map here, it's going to be trouble for JYJ. He just can't quite keep up.
Yeah, we got a few Lotto drop ships. Gonna see if we can try and gamble for some damage with those, maybe dropping the bottom right or what have you, but yeah, I think the main catalyst is just no 4th gas for JYJ. He can't afford to make that many tanks as well as a fleet of vessels, and that is why we're seeing him struggle so much. He's losing so many vessels to Hydras on the ground from being plagued earlier. He's having such a hard time with it. Has found a little bit of a hole in the armor of Queen at that 9 o'clock, distracting him there while starting to unload these dropships here in the bottom right quadrant of the map. Queen, though, has a Nidus set up there and a couple of units to buffer to buy him some valuable time to delegate defenders.
Okay, kills the gas at least. Slow down this base a little bit, but you can see in the supply, it's absolutely brutal. Queen just completely dwarfing him now, and we're just waiting for the closer here as Queen exceeds 2,000 minerals in his bank account. It's so difficult for him to, for JYJ to just match the supply to actually get anything done. He's going to go for this gas as well. Okay, another gas. Guys are actually going to be killed. Again, temporary measure here, but it's going to help JYJ to get a little bit of momentum back in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Queen is predominantly mineral heavy right now. He can still make a ton of Hydras to combat the composition of JYJ. The problem is that JYJ is struggling to surmount the damage. Queen is now gradually creeping ahead in supply, and he's got a few spare units to start going on, you know, pincer maneuvers and wrapping around the back end of some of these positions that JYJ has tried to take in for himself, and he's going to get mopped up very cost efficiently here. Unfortunately, I think this is the writing on the wall for JYJ. He might still have a little bit of fighting strength left in him, but I think that just basically tipped the scales. I don't see him winning this game anytime soon now.
Yeah, the writing's been on the wall here a little bit for JYJ for quite some time. He is still trying to hang in here, but Ultralisk Cavern is done. The +3 armor is there for Queen, and Ultralisk will be popping out here very, very soon. He does get the drop into the bottom right. Okay, getting the drop here and killing off all these drones plus the base. It's not nothing, man. It's not nothing, that's for sure. He's actually going to shut off the gas supply a little bit here for Queen, who's taking the mineral only, or excuse me, the natural here as well. Hydra Defiler there on the high ground now should be able to mop up that force. JYJ has the mineral only over on his side, but he has yet to grab that 4th gas. Again, he's just focusing entirely on putting on the pressure to Queen, and it's starting to work a little bit, but there's just not really much of a future. He catches that Defiler. That's a huge moment. If that Defiler had gotten the Plague off, that army would have been completely shut down, but maybe he has a chance now with this drop. I don't know. That's so many Hydras too. So many Hydras, so many forces in general. He's got nothing on the defense here. He's been totally focused on dealing damage to Queen, and so he's just wide open for this counterattack.
Yeah, he's been pretty much defending by attacking more or less this entire time, but it looks like a massive counterattack finally going to make its way into that 3 o'clock base. This might be one of the final nails into the coffin of JYJ. He's going to go on a last hoorah of seeing if he can run it down the rally point, hoping there's not enough defenders back at home for Queen to deal with his main battle force. Looks like there isn't that many lurkers or defilers here just yet. There is a Nidus Canal down in the bottom right to cycle some units over here, as well as retreat those units back from the 3 o'clock. So Queen probably will still clean up this force, but it is a valiant effort from JYJ. He's making a bit of a scrappy game out of it and catching some of the gas units coming out from the hatchery lines, but doesn't look like there's enough meat on the bone. Unfortunately, he's going to get gobbled up now by Queen.
Oh my god, the surround. Holy crap. Everything just completely destroyed. It's like that first cutscene from Starcraft Broodwar, where the Terran Marines are in the trenches and the lings are just coming from every single direction, completely overwhelming the position. GG has to be called, and Queen will move forward to face off against Bisu in the final match. All right, boys, time for the final game of the night. As always, just want to remind you that we have a Patreon page. It's Sanchin Duocast, and the link is in the description below if you guys want to support. We really appreciate it. Final game is going to be Bisu versus Queen, with Queen spawning in the center right and Bisu in the center left. It's been a hell of a week. It should be a great match to end on here on Jane Doe. There's a lot of craziness that can happen. This map has brought us some very, very good games so far.
Oh yeah, I think this is the best way to end as the climax. A PVZ on Jane Doe. I don't think that I could wish for anything better right now, saying the new map pool has been truly spectacular, and this particular map and this particular matchup really does have a special place in my heart right now.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Bisu has been on another level recently, especially when it comes to this matchup. I'm more hopeful than ever that he can do very well, but he'll have to adapt to the new map pool, and so we're gonna get a little glimpse into how he is changing things up, of course, going straight for this gateway. It's so common on this map. I think this is going to be the way to play. But we might see some interesting stuff come out of this, right? Like, you can block this ramp extremely quickly, go directly into a Nexus, then get very quickly into that Corsair immedially. But is there any potential to do like a one base play? I guess not with the Overlord coming over here so quickly. It's just really possible for the Zerg player, right? The Zerg can block that ramp, keep the probe out, and then go for a one base, and it's quite sneaky, but Queen's not doing that this game.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see too many one base builds. I think one of the reasons we saw Soma do it against Shuttle was also because it was Shuttle and he thought he would be able to get away with it against him. I don't think we'll be seeing too much of that. Seems like this game around we've got a 12 hatch from Queen in the back pocket expansion, and a very typical gateway into Nexus here from Bisu. One of the main differences on this map is just like you were saying, you can basically get away with not having to make a forge, so really quick tech and economy available. Queen coming down now, trying to bully back this probe in his natural. Wants to try and get all three hatcheries set up. Can't quite get it though. Good probe block from Bisu. It also throws down the pylon to really throw a wrench into the build order of Queen here as the Zealot comes on in.
Yeah, he might throw down, yeah, there it is, another hatch. Just gonna put it down next to where he'd like to throw down that third, and this may force Queen into a 4-hatch Hydra play. It's not a bad play on this map, it's actually quite solid, because you've only got the one entrance into all three of these bases. That's at the natural down there at the front. My gosh, this Zealot getting very stuck up on a lot of these drones that are mining. Only able to get a couple of punches in, and then suddenly it's going to wind up going down. This is a little bit rough for Bisu, who's hoping for more damage here. Good defense from Queen, and he will be able to get into that 4-hatch Hydra undisturbed.
Yeah, I mean, the Zealot didn't really accomplish a whole lot besides some scouting information and disrupting the mining for a brief pause where they had to surround the Zealot, but honestly, pretty nice for Queen. The only deficit is not being able to have this hatchery on location as his third base. So yeah, he might be a little bit disorientated in terms of what build order choices he has to choose from now. Could be something like a 4-hatch Hydra. He'll have a little bit less mineral optimization to work with going forward, but he's going to probably plop another hatchery down just here in a second. There it goes. Yeah, I'm curious to see how Queen wants to follow out of this. Does somewhat limit your options when you don't have as many minerals to optimize right off the bat. Zerg is seriously mineral optimization centric out of all three races by far. You have very few drones and you need to be mining very optimally with them as you start, and he is plopping down that Hydra den at a relatively early time, which looks like it's lining up to be some type of 4-hatch Hydra.
Yeah, the reason why this is really strong for Jane Doe is because generally on a normal map, you're on 3 bases. You've got 2 different locations you really have to defend when it comes to overlords, right? You have to have overlords at 2 different locations to make sure DTs don't run in and kill a bunch of drones. That means you have to have 2 different locations with Hydras defending those overlords as well. But here, you can defend all 3 bases from a straight up DT walking in with just all your overlords at the natural and, you know, 2-3 Hydras at the natural as well. And then you can drone up very quickly, get into a really robust economy. The danger is that the Protoss player goes for something a little bit crazy, like going for DT drop. It's a little bit hard to make something like that work when you're also going for Corsair, but I mean, Queen even going to get in here and spot everything. Now he knows for sure what he's up against. He should be able to optimize.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go for something like a DT drop, you have to cut some of your Corsair production to do it. Like maybe you're only going up to like 3 or so Corsairs. If you scout with the first Corsair that it's a delayed lair build, you don't really have to make that many Corsairs to kind of lock down the overlords in just one position at this 3rd base location, and then as a result could still go for a DT drop build. Although I haven't seen many players elect to do that, although if anyone's likely to go for it, it might be Bisu. He's the guy that basically invented Ser DT back in the day, but looks like right now he's more considering his, you know, his economic prowess, so he's gearing up to take a 3rd base already, plopping down a couple of cannons. in that location now while distracting Queen and trying to pin back some of these Hydras from being aggressive.
I think this is smart. You know, one thing about this build here is that the layer is delayed. He knows that there's not going to be Overlord speed. So all these Hydras that are popping up for Queen right now, none of them can really do anything. There's going to be DT here in front of the cannons. As you're trying to gun down those cannons, the DTs do immense damage. Plus the few units he's got out here at the front. Okay, he's not quite there with the DTs yet. Going to be finishing off these 4 cannons. Queen wants to press the issue here. Try to at least delay this third base from coming up. Can Bisu hold on? Has he made enough here? DT should be on the way. It should be in the production tab right now, but just diving on top of these cannons right now. He's going to dive directly onto that second cannon. Third cannon goes down as well. This is some really efficient Hydra busting here. Zealots do not have speed, and so they're having a very hard time blocking. There it is, the speed kicks in, but all the cannons are dead. A few of them warping in right now are just barely going to come online here. As the Zealots start to disappear, there's just the one more cannon left. Are there any DTs coming out? He's pulling the probes. He's pulling the probes to try and save this. Oh my goodness, Bisu going to lose all the cannons and the probes too.
Yeah, this is looking like nights out for Bisu. He's got a few more probes coming in with a Zealot, but I don't think it's going to be enough. He technically isn't out of the game yet, but this is a seriously advantageous position for Queen going forward, being able to soft contain the Protoss, and now even challenging the ramp, knowing that Storm is not yet done. It's only 8 minutes into the game. Storm usually finishing up somewhere around 8:20, 8:30 traditionally, unless you rush for it, and Bisu hasn't done that this time. There is a DT that's now finally out. Maybe it can save the day and hold the ramp for now, but the damage has been done. Bisu's been delayed, and Queen's catching up in his tech as well. Evo Chamber going down, Overlord speed on the way. Really great position currently for our Zerg.
I'm surprised he didn't make DTs faster. He actually made a High Templar before going into a DT. Feels like a mistake to me. Rushing out that DT a little bit quicker would have completely saved him from this attack. Like, there was no way Queen was going to be able to move the Overlords all the way from the natural, his natural to Bisu's natural, and do that attack if those DTs were out in time. This is now such a brutal position. Bisu has to add on a whole bunch more cannons, and Queen can come back here again and pressure this. The Overlord speed will be done this time, and so there's no hope of a DT just saving the day.
Yeah, this doesn't look ideal. Like, I don't know how Bisu is going to hold on to this natural expansion. He's throwing down a bunch of cannons now, and maybe he's got enough Storm to buffer against this, but it does look pretty scary what Queen is mustering right now to come to the front line. There's going to be like 1 or 2 storms ready. A third one will be ready in a few seconds as well. There might just barely be enough Storm to hold on, but it's also assuming that Queen doesn't Storm dodge really well. He's running in now to start baiting out some of that valuable utility, and he's making lurkers, so he's getting himself set up for a potential contain if he can't just outright win with a bust.
Yeah, I think the containment play is great here. Big Storm landing on a lot of these Hydras, but they don't die, so he can pull back, make more lurkers out of those. Get really efficient here. He's actually going around the back. Look at that. He's going to go around the back, kill the stacked stasis chambers and try to sneak in the back. Can he actually get a couple of lurkers out of range, vision range here for Bisu to catch the probes as they come down the ramp? No, looks like the pylon there will catch everything as it comes down. Still could create a bit of a distraction at the front and then bring lurkers in the back to catch some of the probes. We'll see if he's able to make that happen. The Robo is on the way now, but it's a long way from finishing. Bisu can't come out right now, so Queen's move here to the back with the lurkers is actually going to pay off big time.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very successful, and there's not that much Storm available for Bisu to shut this down. That Robo, relatively relatively speaking to what we're seeing on screen, is extremely late. The observers are going to be like a minute and a half off. But oh, nice play from Bisu. He actually blocks the lurkers temporarily with a couple of pylons here on the high ground, buying himself a little bit of valuable time, throwing down some additional cannons, but there's not that much storm available. His probes are exposed. He has to pull them back, and as long as the lurkers are split, there won't be enough storm to kill all of these. There is a robo finished up, but it takes a little bit of time to actually build the observatory and construct an observer, and he's in range of that robo right now. He might even be able to snipe it before the observer pops out.
Ooh, okay, he did manage to get rid of all the lurkers. He ran forward and got one hit on each lurker before it could burrow. And so he was able to utilize just one storm apiece to kill these lurkers. Otherwise, you need 2 storms if you don't have any damage on these. So was able to clean that up relatively effectively and keep the robo alive, most importantly. He has actually been baited here. He thinks that there's a lurker right there. And he's wasting a lot of the storms over at this location. Should be an observer in just a moment. That observatory is a very fast building to build. And so he should be able to get that observer out, but the next stage of the game has already begun here. Queen likely going to start dropping into this main here in a moment, and he's also taking his 4th base, so it's just going to get worse for Bisu from here.
Yeah, he's got 5 Corsairs. Maybe he can gun down an Overlord or 2 before they actually get into the main and start dropping. Oh no, he's actually sacrificing a couple of those Corsairs ahead of schedule. He is trying to challenge the high ground position in the natural right now, but that's going to give precious moments for Queen to muster an offensive going into the main base now with 7 Overlords loaded up, Hydras and Lurkers. This is going to be a tough hold for Bisu, especially because he's a little bit pressured in that natural expansion on the low ground. This is going to be a tough hold. He has got 5 High Templars, about 3 Storms available currently, and there will be 2 more online in just a moment. Queen trying to go after that Templar Archives. There's actually only 1 Lurker here, so Bisu can clean this up if he can get 1 or 2 great Storms, but this is still a pretty cost inefficient trade for our Protoss, and Queen can keep elevatoring more and more Zerg units to keep the aggression online.
Yeah, he lost all the High Templars there and the Archons. There goes the High Templar Archives. Seems to be just not quite enough production online here for Bisu to kind of stabilize here, and there goes the probes in the main base. This is brutal. Just being torn limb from limb here. Bisu, I think, had a pretty decent idea of how to play this one out, but getting onto that low ground and trying to challenge Queen played into the hands of the 4 Hatch Hydra a little bit too much. Again, could have possibly held on with the DT, but was a bit late on that. GG is finally called here, and Queen beats the odds, taking out Bisu and winning it for the Zerg. 70% plus win rate, or win prediction there for the Protoss this week. But Queen turns that around and puts Protoss in 2nd place. All right, guys, here are your point rankings after week 6. Protoss still in the lead, catching a few 2nd places here in the last few weeks of KCM. Able to maintain that lead, but Zerg is catching up there at 6. Terran lagging a bit behind in 3rd place there with 4 points. Weeks 7 and 8 are going to be crucial here, Shun. If Zerg can put it together some really good lineups, and even if they can't, they've shown that they are still very, very strong and could potentially take this final spot, maybe surpass Protoss in week 7 and 8, but it's going to be a hard battle for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but with the points still relatively close together, there's still everything to play for. Even Terran can maybe, have a couple of good weeks where Zerg is coming last place. Maybe they can do well on the board. It's going to be hard to say. I don't think that there's a world in which Terran win both 7 and 8 and they win on the aggregate. I don't think that will happen because it also requires Protoss losing both weeks. But I think it's still really interesting that this is like one of the only seasons of KCM where Protoss has actually done really well and excelled, and picking up a point on the board here today still, despite not coming first place, is great for them because they still have a 2-point lead over Zerg and a 4-point lead over Terran. I still think it looks like Protoss are going to be going through to the finals. I don't see them losing both weeks 7 and 8, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's actually kind of funny. If Terran wins and Zerg gets second place, both of the next 2 weeks, we'll have a 3-way tie for points. That would be kind of hilarious. But they do end up deciding ties. We learned from a couple seasons ago that they decide the ties based on how many wins and losses each team has had throughout the season. So your overall win-loss does matter in the event of a tie. But guys, that's it for week number 6. Thank you for waiting. It's been a little bit of a late one. We've had a bit of a hard time getting together and putting it together here for you guys, but I'm sure it was worth the wait. Absolute fantastic week. So many great games. I'm definitely putting a couple of these into the best of 2026 folder for later. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.